Use Witsit, gets it, step into the mic, bro. Talking flat earth, get ready for the hype, bro. Aced algebra in school, honors too, bro. Gravity's a lie, yeah, I'm in the zone, bro. Electrostatics, that's the real deal, bro. They say the earth's a globe, but that ain't right, bro. I'm the best flat earth debater, bro. Humbly, opposition ain't on my level, so, but let's not get too technical, bro. This is so funny, you're getting crushed, bro. I'm schooling you, bro. You are literally losing the debate, bro. You are so out of your league, bro.
You are so out of your league.
This is so funny, you're getting crushed, bro. I'm schooling you, bro. You are literally losing the debate, bro. You are so out of your league, bro. Our model, though not defined in full, bro, is superior. Your model's falsified, bro. Van de Graaff generator, electrostatics a maze, bro. May objects change weight, just a phase, bro. 100-volt per meter electric field, you know, bro. Flipped it with 400,000 volts, whoa. Small gets loaded, defying gravity like totally, bro. Next I'll rub a cat to a brick the show, bro. This is so funny, you're getting crushed, bro. I'm schooling you, bro. You are literally losing the debate, bro. You are so out of your league, bro. This is so funny, you're getting crushed, bro. I'm schooling you, bro. You are literally losing the debate, bro. You are so out of your league, bro. MCToon and Globers, you can't deny, bro. Witsit gets it's here to testify, bro. Most times I don't remember you exist, yo. I'm the flat earth king, you better believe it's so. Moon phases are like a magnetic cycle, bro. Center of a ferrocell, image magnets glow, bro. Charge up and down, etherically displaced, yo. Kinematic equivalence explains it all somehow, bro. It might sound tough, but let's skip details, yo. You might believe I have an amplitude for math, ho. It's all just a lot of salad in my words, yo. This is so funny, you're getting crushed, bro. I'm schooling you, bro. You are literally losing the debate, bro. You are so out of your league, bro. This is so funny, you're getting crushed, bro. I'm schooling you, bro. You are literally losing the debate, bro. You are so out of your league, bro. And what happened is they brought in Einstein to totally save the physics redefined, to flip physics all on its head, bro. To keep Earth moving around the sun, you know. And in the magnetic torus field, I say the path of planets fits perfectly. This is so funny, you're getting crushed, bro. I'm schooling you, bro. You are literally losing the debate, bro. You are so out of your league, bro. This is so funny, you're getting crushed, bro. I'm schooling you, bro. You are literally losing the debate, bro. You are so out of your league, bro. If this debate was a rap battle, I would have totally won, bro.
Welcome everybody to what I have been waiting for, what you've been waiting for a long time. If you don't know, one of the most well-known flat earthers, Jeran Campanella, was the recipient of an invitation to go to Antarctica to see if the sun did what flat earth says it did, or if what the globe says it did. Jiren requested for another flat earther to go with. He asked Austin Witsit to go with, so Austin went as well. I did too. And there was a total of 9 of us, and the sun did exactly what the globe says it would do, and no flat earth explanation exists for what happened. Since then, 6 months ago, this was 6 months ago. In fact, we were on the ice 6 months ago today. And since then, Jeran has given up. He's escaped the cult, and he is no longer a flat earther. In fact, he has demolished flat earth over and over, and they are upset. And all of the flatties said, well, what about Austin, this other? Well, he stayed flat. He's been a little silent. I think he's had a few bumps in his personal life, but he's still flat. And he did a summit this weekend. Austin arranged a summit this weekend, a virtual online summit. And in that summit, Austin and Jeran debated. And I've got it. Got a copy of it here. So we are going to watch that video. And so it is a pay-per-view only. So if you're interested in watching it, you'll have to go there. Oh, you'll have to get your own copy of it, I suppose. But anyway, I've been handed this bag, and in this bag is a cat.
She put herself in that bag.
She climbed in the bag. Oh,
Yeah.
That's so cute. Hi, kitty. Such a good kitty. What do you think? Say hi to everybody. Can you no? You just want to go? All right. Well, thank you for the cat.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, I've got a dog in the room now. That was a cat in the bag. So anyway, if you want, you can go get yourself a copy. I'm sure Austin would be happy to sell you a copy. So anyway, that's what we're going to be watching. I've seen the part we're going to go over today. I've prepped a few things as responses. So that's it. And I was just chatting with Jeran a little bit ago. He's going to be in the live chat soon. So when he does, make sure you read him. Looking forward to him popping in. So, all right, here it is. Here is the beginning. Now I have a fan going. Do you hear the fan at all? Does anybody hear the fan? I don't think you do. Austin Witsit, the $35,000 luggage set. Yes. All right. Well, here is the live stream. You don't hear the fan. Good. All right.
Delay. Everything went wrong for the first time right before this debate. This should be interesting. We wanted to give you guys a chance to get here. So, this is the long-awaited debate that has been requested by everyone 1,000 times. So here we are. Jared and I are going to be debating, is the Earth a globe? So yeah, I'll just go ahead and hand it over to the moderator, which is Sean Griffin from Keenan Context.
Welcome, everyone. This is the infamous debate, is the Earth a globe? Jeran Campanella of Jeranism, Austin Witsit of Witsit Gets It. Austin, do you have the screen? It shows just you right now.
Well, for them, it shows all three of us.
Okay.
You just can't see.
So welcome, everyone. This is possibly round one of this epic debate going down tonight. Is the Earth a globe? And I think Jeran Campanella is going to be in the affirmative position. So he's going to go first. The format for the debate will be 10-minute openings, 7-minute rebuttals, followed by 30 minutes of open cross-exam between the two interlocutors. And then we're going to be taking questions from the audience for a 30-minute Q&A. So be sure to hold your questions till about midway through the debate. That way they don't get lost in the abundance of questions flowing in. And Jeran, if you're ready, we can go ahead and hear your opening.
Yep, I'm going to set my timer so I have a little clock here going. And we good to go. Okay, and we said 10 minutes. Okay, we will, can we edit this one? Good enough. All right, and let me know, can you just tell me when we have like 5 minutes and then 1 minute or something?
Can do.
Thank you much. Are we good to go?
Yeah, I'll start the time when you start your speaking.
Sounds good. All right, so thanks everybody for being here. Obviously, thanks for inviting me, Austin. Thanks for moderating, Sean. I know it was last second. Much appreciated. So, and let me begin by saying hello to the former colleagues, friends I have. I wish it was under better circumstances.
I muted myself because I had the sound going through my speaker and my earbuds, and I had to fix that, so I muted it. Anyway, I said that Darth was offered the moderation position initially, but he turned it down because Jeran would tear him up. Even though he's the moderator, Jeran would probably just lay into that pile of steaming filth. There you go. That's your background.
Unfortunately, as you know, tonight I'm debating somebody I once stood next to in the flat earth community, Austin Witsit. We ran summits, Globebusters, we spoke at conferences, we used a microphone and speaker at Venice Beach. We claimed to seek truth, and the same I thought could be said for all of you. Originally, the difference is that I actually meant it. Others did as well. They've escaped the flat earth. We weren't here for a social movement. While I might agree with the ideas of that, those can be done in other ways. We were here for truth, and a decade researching, presenting, defending the flat earth model. Why? Well, because I thought it was true. So sadder still, Austin and I both went on a trip in December to do what we both thought was helping the flat earth, and in my mind at least, by showing strong evidence for or against it. When I encountered the real world observations that flat earth can't explain, I didn't ignore it. I tested it. I went down, took action. I went to Antarctica, watched the 24-hour sun with my own eyes, circled for 4 days. It wasn't NASA. It wasn't Dave Weiss's plasma sun that he got from a Microsoft whistleblower. It's not hearsay. It's a real observation, 100% above board, despite what you hear from all the great flat earth researchers. And what did I find? I found a model that predicts and explains and matches reality exactly. And it sure as hell isn't the flat model. I thought people would be adults and we would say we were wrong when the evidence was dropped in our lap. And thanks to Robbie, Paul, Patricia, Austin Thompson, Alex Stein, and the others. And there's still some more people who want to remain unnamed, and still others that maybe nobody knows their names. So I'm happy at least that people can admit when they're wrong. But yes, for nearly a decade, I was one of the most vocal proponents of this theory about flat Earth, and it's sad to be here. I know there's a lot of people that I respect very much who are speaking at this event, who have been friends of mine for a long time. Haven't talked to them in 6 months because they abandoned me just like everybody else, because I went down to Antarctica and came back and told you the truth. Can you imagine? You're all truthers, and you turned your back on me for going on a trip and telling you the truth. So what do you think that does to my opinion of the truthers of the flat Earth? But what separates me from the community is exactly that I will follow the evidence even if it leads me somewhere uncomfortable. I'm not here representing NASA. I'm not here on behalf of any government. I'm just here on my own telling you my observations and what they mean to me. What is this debate not about, I guess, is, let me get to this part. So my opponent, obviously Austin, I think Austin's sharp. I think he's articulate. I think he's smart. I think he's undeniably passionate. I used to admire that passion, and I do, but I think that the passion without precision is just noise. Austin's approach is a philosophical approach, I believe, more than it is scientific. And here's what we can expect Austin to do tonight, at least in my opinion. He's not going to answer my questions because he's going to leave us with no picture of how the world works or how it looks or how it operates. No idea of its layout, no understanding or no clue about how anything works. He won't offer any explanations since flat Earth doesn't have any. It will instead say the default position is that we live on a flat plane. But throughout history, we've already corrected that error. The globe is a counterintuitive suggestion. I agree with that. However, it is true. So he also won't at any time offer a working map or model, won't provide a model that matches all known observations, won't explain how you can have circumpolar stars in the south, seen from the continents, the 3 continents, explain why the north at 80 degrees are seeing an inverse but identical observation today that we made 6 months ago to the day, predict sunrise and sunset times for every location on Earth with a flat Earth geometry, or tell us how the sun stays invisible for 24 hours at a time in Antarctica unless he invokes refraction or reflection.
Jeran, real quick, Jeran, I paused the time for you. Before we started, you said you were going to minimize yourself. Are you thinking you're showing something right now?
No, I'm not showing anything yet.
Okay.
I'll get
all right. Good.
Yeah.
I'll resume the time.
Okay, thanks. So one of the biggest problems is that I've seen is that the flat Earth has become somewhat of a cult. So why did I leave it? Well, I left it not because I was debunked, not because I lost a debate or because I was paid off or because I was got tired of fighting. I left because I did something that very few in this community are willing to do. That's testing our conception of the Earth. Think of what the flat Earth has brought in 10 years. It's been 10 years. We have brought nothing to the world. We have invented nothing. We have increased the knowledge of nothing. We have just spun our wheels and ran on a hamster wheel and then got off and been like really proud of ourselves. But when you look back, you didn't go anywhere. You didn't do anything. We didn't bring anything to the world. And there's a certain point where you need to say, hey, shouldn't we have something by now? Shouldn't we have something? So I tested my conception of the Earth. I went to Antarctica. I witnessed the 24-hour sun. I saw it with my own eyes. It means that the South is not a lie. We'll get into that. But let's talk about the so-called research that was done around the response to the final experiment. Spoiler alert, there wasn't any. No investigation, no travel, no counter experiments, just knee-jerk denial, memes, name-calling, lazy live streams from basements with the globe in the trash and Dave Weiss's app back on a digital Ouija board. Instead of being met with genuine curiosity, my trip to Antarctica, something this community has claimed that they wanted for years. This was something that people pushed for, wanted, said was impossible. We went and did it, but instead it was treated like betrayal. Why? Because I didn't come back with a blurry GoPro clip of an ice wall. Instead, I came back with something far more dangerous to flat Earth, and that's the truth. I watched the sun circle my head for 4 straight days. I recorded it. We live streamed it. We showed angles, timestamp, shadows, sun spots, you name it, all things that wouldn't exist as we saw them on a flat Earth. And so what do I get for that? Shill, actor, Freemason, CGI. The usual default settings of belief systems that can't survive contact with reality. This has opened my eyes to what the truth community really is. If this is the kind of research that they do about the Antarctic trip, then think of all the things that I thought they were researching correctly before. And it becomes a little bit like a cult when you can't question the doctrine, you can't update the model, you can't accept conflicting evidence, and you sure as hell can't leave if you notice that. It's Scientology with memes, basically. So here's my evidence focus area. Number 1, I want to remind everybody that today's date is 6 months to the day that we filmed the 24-hour sun. Why is that important? Well, because we can actually go watch the time lapse of the sun circling us right to left in the south. If we went today to Google Earth and we went to 80 degrees north, we would see the exact opposite observation in the sky. Everything identical, 35 degrees at its high, 15 degrees at its low, moving left to right this time. So how is it that we have places in the world that are symmetrical and upside down from each other? There's only one shape that could possibly be, and it's not flat. If the Earth is flat, the south has to be a lie, period. There's no getting around that. You can't have an opposite of the north like we're taught, and then say that the Earth is flat, but it still works that way. No, it wouldn't work that way. So if we went down there and we saw that the south was not a lie, then that's pretty good evidence that the Earth is what we were taught. So if you're unaware of it, it's time you figured it out. That if the Earth is flat, then the south cannot be what we were taught. Therefore, if it is exactly what we were taught, then guess what the shape of the Earth is? So in December 2024, I knew the following: the South is either a lie or we were wrong. So I decided to take a free trip to check. And throughout this debate, I will be focusing on a few main points. Each of them is a dagger in the heart of the flat Earth model. It's the reason that I switched. It sucks. It's the last thing anybody wants to do. It's the worst thing I've ever had to do. However, I'm a truther. So despite the people yelling and screaming, the people lying about me, so-called truthers, Steve Falconer blocking me, or, you name it, Dave Weiss blocking me, no contact. These people are not truthers. If they were truthers, wouldn't you want to know what Jeran has to say? This guy was a flat earther for 10 years and now he's flipped. Let's listen to him. Nope. Instead, you all blocked me. You all refuse to listen because you're in an echo chamber. That's what you've built for yourself. It's the only way flat earth survives, is if you sit in that echo chamber and repeat each other and pretend that Steve Falconer's video did anything other than prove the globe. The South Celestial Pole is visible from the South continents. It rotates just like the North Celestial Pole, but clockwise instead. The South Pole itself is a geographic location. It's verified by directional convergence and solar angles. The reverse sun and moon motion, easily explained by simply saying the word sphere. Tropic of Capricorn behavior, curving to the left, not to the right, easily explained by saying the word sphere. Southern star trails, matching observations that only make sense with a spherical rotating Earth. Circumpolar stars in the south that would never work on a flat Earth, impossible, but they work perfectly when you say the word sphere. Sunrise and sunset, left to right, setting and rising, predicted on a globe, unexplainable, and a paradox on flat Earth. The apparent fake second refracted something cop-out sun is basically the only out that the flat Earth has, is to introduce apparent suns, second suns, third suns, reflected suns, even though that's not how the world works. So my final thoughts is, thank you, Austin, I know you too want the truth. So being that we saw the same thing, I think it's time that we figure out how you can see differently than I do now. If the globe accounts for every single observation that we saw on the trip, and the flat Earth didn't account for any, it failed, it was disproven, it was falsified, then I have to ask you, Austin, why you would remain in the camp that has nothing, and is that still you being a truther? But at the end of the day, I have something that he does not really. It's an explanation that actually works. So to the audience, I'm not asking you to believe me. I just ask you to think, to test, to observe, to not just discount me outright. Listen, learn, and take it in, and then go and do your own observations. I've got evidence tonight that you can do on your own. You don't need NASA, you don't need authority. You can figure out by the end of today what the shape of the Earth is. And we were wrong. It's okay. Guess what? I'm a truth seeker. I told you guys that we were looking for the shape of the Earth. We found it. Let's move on. Let's get over it. Let's get past it. Thank you.
Jared is not messing around here. What a great intro. I want to remind you that Jeran said that Austin will not be answering any questions. He will not be explaining how it works. He will not be doing anything of the sort. In fact, he will. Jeran said Austin will make the claim that flat is the default. Little foreshadowing there. Anyway, Jeran, well done. Well done. Savage. Just savage. Does Jeran accept gravity now? He hasn't said, but he says the Earth is a globe. He agrees that the Earth is a globe. So the reason why flat earthers reject gravity is because gravity would cause flat Earth to collapse into a globe. So it's a thing you must do as a flat earther. So it doesn't have a reason for that. Anyway, now we've got a couple things. It's coming up on Austin's time, so you know what you got to get. You gotta get your protection ready here. So here we go. Make sure you get this on. There we go. Just in case. I also got this in case you need it. So yeah, and get your dressing ready. So anyway, now that I'm ready, we can listen to his intro.
All right, you are muted.
Yep.
So I'm trying to make sure we're right here. So it's rebuttals right now. Do I do my opening right now or my rebuttal?
Not sure.
You do your opening now, and then you guys will do your rebuttals, just starting with Jeran.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let me replace. Okay, cool. I don't have a timer. Here, I'll set a timer.
I got a timer here.
Okay, yeah, just let me know when I'm getting close or whatever, and it's cool.
Yeah, I'll call out the 1 minute mark.
So for reference, Jeran wrote that down and was like, had prepped. He had done a bunch of prep work. Austin, you let me know if you think that he prepped this.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna do this anyway. All right. Okay, cool. All right, so yes, Jeran and I are obviously have been friends for quite a while, and it is somewhat poetic that we're doing this at the summits, which we used to run together, and we did indeed go to Antarctica. So I am going to have to it's a debate, and so I'm just going to have to do what we do in debate. So I will lay this out and I'll save a lot of the stuff I maybe would have said for the rebuttal period. But to lay out kind of the issue with the South Pole claim and what happened in Antarctica, right? It's really simple. It's just an illogical premise, right? Because it affirms the consequent. And in its core, it's an appeal to incredulity. This is why I did not flip to the globe. That is my answer, is that to maintain logical consistency, I could not have flipped on all of the logical foundation, the evidences, the refutations, simply because I, at one point, didn't understand how something worked. If I were to say, oh, well, I can't see how this would work on a flat Earth, therefore it can't be flat, therefore it must be a globe, that's called an appeal to incredulity, meaning I don't understand it, so it can't be true. And this is a very dangerous fallacy, right? This, if we applied that standard to everything else in the world, then we would have never made any type of progression. So that's like my core issue with it is the people I have seen flip and ask them, they're just articulating to me that they don't understand how it could work on a flat Earth. And that kind of leads into the next part, right? Which is that they shift the burden that.
So will he be explaining how it does work on flat Earth? Right? That the appeal to incredulity is you don't understand the topic, and since you don't understand the topic, then okay, then that's your fault for not understanding it. Great, absolutely, that's an appeal to incredulity. So then what you do in response to that is you explain how it actually works, and then the person isn't not understanding anymore, and then they have the option of not being smart enough to understand, as most flat earthers are, or choosing to not understand. But that requires now that he explains how it does work.
I would say that the globe holds over to me or a flat earther, right? Shifting the burden of proof, which is the person that challenges or denies your positive assertion, you're asking them to prove that it isn't true. So yes, it is correct. I will say that the flat earth is the default position because it is. I think Jeran is going to be more honest than most people, right? So when we typically debate this conversation, so I would imagine he would acknowledge that. The default position is that the Earth's a stationary plane. He said that we figured it out over time, that we've been able to replace it. Like we can discuss that, right? But the default position is that the Earth is stationary. The default position is that the Earth's a topographical plane. We utilize it as such, like for almost everything that we do. For transportation, for civil engineering, we actually build that way. We fly planes that way. Like we have to utilize it as a plane. We actually measure elevation vertical, perpendicular to a horizontal baseline that is the sea level, the horizontal datum, and it goes on and on.
Now, this is an appeal to incredulity. Austin does not understand how we measure angles on the surface of a sphere. That's his problem. I can explain it. It is possible to measure an angle that's tangent to the point on the surface of the sphere that you're on, and that doesn't require the sphere to be flat. That's how you deal with an appeal with incredulity. You explain it. Now, Austin can choose to be dumb enough to not understand it, which I think is his choice. He has chosen that. Or he could try to understand it, but he hasn't. He doesn't want to.
No.
Oh, sorry. That was an accident.
There are many evidences that we live on a plane, but it is the default position. Therefore, just logically speaking,
it's the default position. And why is it the default position? All right, I got to take this off. All right. Why is it the default position? Because he says it is. So I can say it. The globe is the default position for the same reason. You don't get to declare a default position in a debate. In a debate, you both come in, at best, both of you come in equal. But that's not completely the case. In a debate, it's actually that there is such thing as a default position. That's commonly commonly covered in debates. Like, so here is the debater's guide, and I'm not going to find the spot here, but in the beginning of this, it talks about the two sides of the debate. You have the side of the debate that holds the default position, the position that society in general holds. Okay, they have one that's one side of the debate. The other side are the people that are opposing that position and suggesting some sort of a change or a difference. So generally in a debate, one side does have the default position, but the default position in the globe flat debate is globe. Don't forget that. And Austin does not forget that. Well, he must forget that because he has said this. Let me see. I think this is the right one.
With the person making the claim, but it can also lie with the person denying a well-established fact or theory.
Let me play that again because I missed the beginning here. This is super important, Austin. This is your words. This is your voice coming out of your face hole saying these words.
In every debate, the burden of proof typically lies with the person making the claim, but it can also lie with the person denying a well-established fact or theory.
So, Austin, you are denying the well-established fact or theory. You have the burden of proof in this debate, not Jeran. This agrees, and in fact, this book specifically states that in a debate, the debater gets to declare that the Earth is a globe. They use that as the example in this book of the thing that you don't need proof for. This book. That's their example of the thing you don't need proof for. I should underline that so I can find it more easily.
Claim that the antithesis of that is true, right? The opposite of that, it has the burden of proof. I don't really think that Jeran is denying that. I think he's saying that he thinks it's been satisfied. But the only issue is that if you then go to satisfy that burden, it cannot be an articulation of an appeal of incredulity because you don't understand how to work on a flat Earth. It can't be, well, if I assume the Earth's a globe, this makes perfect sense. It makes more sense to me than whatever I would think of a flat Earth. I had reified a model prior to this, and therefore, since it doesn't work with the reification of my prior model, it can't be flat, it must be globe. These are just fallacious, and this is the very issue that's got us into this free falling through an infinite vacuum infinitely at 66,600 miles per hour nonsense that we currently were told is true. This is the very line of reasoning that got us into the ever-expanding Copernican model that people believe to be true. Now, I don't know Jeran's specific position now. I don't know if he's a geocentrist or not, etc. But we're talking specifically more about the shape. Is it a globe is the question. So I'm going to list off some evidences. I just want to make that very clear that, like, on its face, a stationary topographical plane is the default position based on empirical evidence. The antithesis of that would be that it's actually a globe, that it's a sphere, that the Earth is spinning convexly at a certain rate, and therefore it has the burden of proof. And then if you point to the sky and say, well, if we were on a sphere, when I get over to the other side of it, everything would be upside down. And since this stuff looks upside down, therefore the Earth has to be a sphere because I can't understand how that would work on a flat Earth. That isn't a sufficient argument. That is affirming the consequent, shifting the burden, reifying your model, begging the question, and more importantly, it's just an appeal to incredulity. That's what it is. So that's why I don't resonate with it at all. So I'll list off some of the evidences of how we know that it is flat. It is a default position. Any positive claim requires the burden. And I actually don't resonate with people that just say stuff in the sky doesn't matter and they throw their hands up, and I can understand even Jeran's frustration with that because I don't resonate with that at all. I think that we should always try to understand the way that things work. We should always seek out answers. We shouldn't try to look at this as some type of little gotcha game where we don't have to answer that, haha. But it is true that just because I observe a phenomena, it doesn't then make all other evidence dissipate. Right, so we look at the preponderance of evidence, we have to stay logically consistent, and we have to see what the empirical evidence actually says, and then we go and test it, and we see what the answer is. We don't throw out 95% of evidence because there's 1 or 2 or 10 outliers that we.
You actually heard him say that, yeah. You don't throw out 95% of the evidence because you have a small number of outliers. He actually said that in a debate where he has no evidence to support, and the best he can do is point to a couple what he thinks are outliers. Anyway, so I think you've got you down here in the corner. I've got the list of the claimed fallacies that he's been saying here. So I think we'll track those as we go. I need to make this bold. There we go. Nice, looking good there, Austin.
Don't know how to currently explain. So I would say one of the really strong pieces of evidence that we live on a plane is something that we recently found out, which is if you actually take angle measurements to stars, say from a ground and from the surface of the Earth, you're going to see that the star gets occulted by the mountain. As soon as that moment happens, you can take the time, you can measure that angle, and you can compare it to the angle of, like, say, in Stellarium. At that exact time you took the time measurement, as soon as the star was occulted, you can then go to the mountain, compare that angle, and it is as if it is planar geometry. It matches perfect. The flat Earth prediction to that star matches perfect, whereas the globe, it would be an entirely different position, many degrees different, and the issue is that they would then have to try to claim refraction, but the star has already been occulted prior to the measurement, so refraction can't even be applicable. So all
right, so he's got a couple problems here. He's trying to, this doesn't matter in the end, but one of the things that they love to do, of course, is flat earthers love to ignore refraction, and the reason why, of course, is refraction helps them. And so if they're like, let's not account for refraction, then it helps them. But refraction happens in the real world, and you need to take that into account. But so they're playing this little word game where like, well, the light is occulted, so you can't consider refraction. But of course you can, because the mountain is blocking that. It's getting in the way. And the mountain you can see because there's light coming from the mountain to you. That's how you see the mountain. That light is refracted. But also you can take what's happening is there's a star going in front of a mountain. So there's a mountain here, right? And then at some time, the star goes behind that mountain. And of course, at that instant of time when the star is crossing that mountain, being blocked by it, or occulted, as he said, the light is coming to us. It is refracted at that moment. So you can't take the after when you don't see it anymore and say, oh, there's no light, therefore not refract. Of course, that's a lie, but it doesn't matter. And I'll show you why. Because 2 weeks ago, I think, I had Jesse, Path of Light, and Alan Space Audits on, as well as, and he's a flatty, along with Michael Heffron. And Michael Heffron, Austin will say, was a Glober. But I can tell you that Michael Heffron is not a sane person. How do I know? Because I have his book. Michael Heffron is not a sane person. If you're interested, I think this book could be, I mean, every chapter could be an evening of insanity. Ramblings of an old man. Anyway, so I got this because somebody sent me the PDF of his Ether book, right? And his Ether book has a citation. In that citation, it says that everything that has gravity must have a black hole in it. I'm like, what the pook is that? And so I look at the citation. It's got a citation. I go, oh, well, let me look at this. What is this? Is this some sort of a fringe publication? Was this a misunderstanding of a real publication? What was it? Well, the citation is to this book. So he as a proof of, or evidence for, in one book that black hole, that everything that has gravity must have a black hole in it, he cited himself. And I looked at the citations in his Ether book. It's a huge number of them are hit to his own work. It's nuts. The guy is just self-citing constantly. I don't know. Obviously, if you're writing a paper and you're going to refer to something you did prior, you're going to need to do that. But the number of times that he cited himself was pretty significant. I do have the PDF of that one. I think that's not too difficult to find if you want to look that up. So, and I don't know. I'm not in that level of academia, so I don't know if self-citations are that common or not, but it seemed very odd to me. Let me, while I'm here, read a couple super chats. We've got Earthly Skeptics says mythological significance of planet/moon names. And this was definitely, which I have no problem with this, farming cred. You see the people here, 5 Wells is number 3. You see that? So Earthly Skeptic was working on farming some numbers here. Let's see. Can I, top fans, here it is. Top fans, Earthly Skeptic, number 2 with 900 XP. But look at that. Red Cedar, 425, 1,375 XP. I mean, that's a high bar. But yeah, because I posted this earlier, and they were farming XP. Anyway, Larry Scott says for $5, cheers. Slithery says, I have a pet lizard I named Tiny. Why? Because he's minute. Oh my gosh. Dad jokes. Jack Fetter says, that song is my jam. I love the Bro Overload. Well, Bro Overload could be on deck for the closing tonight. Earthly Skeptic says, Austin had bumps in his life, but he's still flat. DP Debunk says, reimbursement for the debate. Thank you, sir. Well, you don't need to do that, but thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Alyssa says, good morning, peeps. Love from down under. Thank you, Alyssum. I hope things are well for you down in Aussie land. And then, oh my goodness, Jim Daniels for $50 US says adding to DP Debunk's reimbursement trend. I appreciate that. I do. Thank you so much. I will forward to the appropriate place. CK says, I humbly thank you for sharing this so we didn't have to give up our email addresses to Witsit, bro. He knows my email address. Back in January, he sent me an email. It ended with, you have 1 week. It's been more than a week. Icy Spin says, formal request for a bro counter. Alternative is a literally counter. The counter is the fallacy list. The fallacy list. Oh, and that's just getting started. Otto says, that's not Witsit. That's an alien shapeshifter. Jack Vetter says, yes, I believe Witspit prepped just as detailed and complete as he did for his trip to Antarctica. Yes. Exactly. Tim Davis says, I used to drive a Geometry. Man, that car, 3-cylinder. If you're going uphill and you had the air conditioner on, you had to turn it off. I don't know. I didn't have one, but that was the joke. So take it as you will. Randomly Epic has been a member for 22 months. Thank you, Randomly Epic. And Rick has been a member for 10 months, says he should try it faster to make it more true. That's right. That's how you make it faster or more true. Jack Vetter says, Witspit says nothing, just derp word salad, bro. Earthly Skeptic says 100 points to Jeran for preparation. Witsit gets the default score. 0. Kango44 says flat is the default position. When the sun sets and rises every day, boats go over the horizon, so knowing nothing else, the default position would be Earth's geometry. Can't be flat. What a clown. Absolutely. Sunset ruins the possibility of the of flat Earth being default. And Austin knows he can't explain a sunset except for word salad. Mr. E-Man sent 5 memberships. I appreciate that very much. And 5 people certainly do as well. Evil Producer 1 says Spitzit could have used this in Antarctica. And then oh my goodness. Let me put that over here. And then right here. There you go. The Nikon P1000 FL ERF. I'll let you all read that as you enjoy. A couple more super chats here. Thank you for that, Evil Producer 1. We got Tim Davis that says he's the only one that knows what he's talking about. Like how Pooh and I are the only ones that get 100% of our jokes. Yeah, Lord and Luminous Pooh he's talking about. Judy Bassett, oh my goodness, member for 49 months. That's a long time. 4 years and a month. Judy, thank you very much. Justin Messenger says, thanks, bro, for the bro gift, bro membership, bro, whatever, bro, was bro. Perfect. All right. There we go. I had stopped it. It got stuck. I'm sorry.
Actual occultation of the star in relation to topography. And the guy that initially went and made this measurement was a glober. He went out there and he saw that the prediction is you can predict it perfectly with flat Earth. It doesn't match the globe at all, and refraction didn't work.
Matches perfectly. Well, I happen to have the data from when let's see. Hold on. Where'd it go? The data. Turned off the wrong one. Here is the data that Jesse Path of Light, who talked with Alan about this. This is his measurement. So Austin just said it matched perfectly with flat Earth, but this was Jesse's findings here. So this was his measurements that he did using the same method. So this is Blinn Mountain. Old Oli got Edith's Blizz Mountain, Edith, right? I'll go to him for the details of what these mean, where these positions are. But here's the date time. You got the location, lat long right there. the elevation, target location. So this is the mountain that he was looking at, and the elevation of feet of the mountain. Now here's the important thing. He does some more math here. Distance in miles. You got the globe Earth prediction in, this is arc seconds, I think, and the flat Earth prediction. Oh, in degrees. There it is. All right. If you don't know what he's doing here, it's a little bit, like you don't need to know. All you need to know is what's coming up here. We've got the globe Earth difference in arc minutes. So how far off was the globe Earth prediction? Now remember, there's no refraction included in here. The globe Earth prediction was negative 7.413. So it was 7.413 arc seconds off. We've got negative 6.9, negative 7.0. You got negative 3, negative 0.6, 0.6, 0.8, 3.2, right? All these are the difference between the globe prediction using Heffron's method and the actual observation. And then this next column, FE diff. So this is the flat Earth prediction compared to the observation. Farther off. 13, 12, 13, 14, 11, 11, 14, right? So the flat Earth prediction not only was not perfect, it was farther off than the globe prediction for these particular measurements. Now, it didn't match perfectly, did it? Now, here is a little infographic that Jesse put together, and you can see here the this graph right here is the important one, right? We've got the comparison of the Heffron alpha to the two formulas. So how far off is the Heffron method, right? The guy that wrote this book, right? So he's claiming his method is perfect and cannot be questioned, right? And Austin says that it matches perfectly. Now, the red is the globe. Let's see, globe apparent angle minus astronomic refraction plus 1 degree per 69 miles. So red is the globe prediction, including refraction. And blue is comparing to the arctan of rise over run. So this is arctan of rise over run is just solving a triangle. That's just trigonometry. So that's how high the mountain should be using flat Earth, because you don't get to add in 1 degree per 69 miles of curve. And you can see here, the blue is not close to this midline here would be matching, right? No deviation from the observation. And you can see the blue, it's all over the place. It's way up here, it's way down here. So that doesn't work too well. That's a bit of a mess, isn't it? Anyway, there's a massive non-random element contributing to alpha, which does not match the flat Earth prediction of arctan rise over run, the geometry of flat Earth, which does perfectly match the globe prediction. There you go. So Austin doesn't actually have any evidence. That's his evidence so far that he's cited. Not very good. Not very good. And if you go watch the debate with Jesse, he's going to come back on and explain it again. If you watch that debate, there's some good background in there, and I think maybe Jesse will explain the details without the others in there talking about it, just to help us understand the methodology, because he has a good understanding for it. Anyway, is Jeran here? Is Jeran here? I see people. Hey, Jeran, how you doing? You crushed that intro.
Ended up leaving the globe. So it's very similar experience to what Jiren experienced, only he went the other way, right? So that just is a piece of evidence, and there is no sufficient rebuttal I've heard for the globe. We can also talk about the linear distribution of the electrical field. We actually have an electrical field on the Earth, and it's a linear distribution, horizontal field lines of the electrical field. This cannot happen. It has to be a radial distribution on a sphere, and it would actually fall off exponentially away from the center, but that's not what we observe.
So, is that the case? So he says it doesn't. Well, it's a linear distribution, and for the globe, it would have to fall off exponentially. Now, why would he say exponentially? So let's see. I'm going to pull up. There it is. Let's have a look. So Austin likes to mention this. This is the Feynman lectures. I'll get this off to the side a little bit there. Okay. So he says it Let's review what he said a little bit here.
There is no sufficient rebuttal I've heard for the globe. We can also talk about the linear distribution of the electrical field. We actually have an electrical field on the Earth, and it's a linear distribution, horizontal field lines of the electrical field. This cannot happen. It has to be a radial distribution on a sphere, and it would actually fall off exponentially away from the center, but that's not what we observe.
Well, is that the case? Let's find out. This is his citation for that claim there. Electric currents in the atmosphere. We've got, I think this is it here. Having suggested how we can measure the electric field in the atmosphere, we now continue our description of it. Just measurements of it. Measurements show, first of all, that the field continues to exist, but gets weaker as one goes up to high altitudes. By about 50 kilometers, the field is very small. So most of the potential charge, the integral of E, is at lower altitudes. The total potential difference from the surface of the Earth to the top of the atmosphere is about 400,000 volts. So Austin just described, he said, if the Earth was a globe, it would have to be like this. He said exponentially. That makes no sense at all. It wouldn't have to drop exponentially. He doesn't know what exponential means, but it would have to drop. Yes. And you know what? It does. It does. If the Earth were, as he describes, where there's two, he says, Gaussian planes, Gaussian surfaces, he mispronounces Gaussian, two Gaussian surfaces, as he says, then it would be the same. The entire distance would be the same. It would not drop off. But here we have it drops off at 50 kilometers. And how high up is the other Gaussian surface? Don't know, but it's more than 50 kilometers. So how could two Gaussians, I feel weird saying it. I'm going to keep saying it. Two Gaussian surfaces, which is basically he's describing a capacitor, but the electric charge between those plates is consistent in a capacitor as he's described. But in reality, it's not. So he's wrong. So his number two evidence for flat Earth is wrong by his own citation. Now, here's the problem. Austin doesn't pay any attention to what I say. I've said this since he first brought this up, and he's never once heard the actual he's never read this paragraph here, right? He's never read that paragraph, but he continues with parroting the same thing. He loves his ignorance. He bathes in ignorance, right? His claim, trash. All right, let's keep going here.
We don't observe that. The linear distribution of the electrical field is a major issue. It's an impossibility on a sphere, right? So what typically happens, I'm guessing that we're getting close to my time. So I got 2 more minutes. So what typically happens is it is what we've always experienced. And this is why I will be very blunt. I'm quite perplexed about Jeran's approach.
Jeran's approach is the globe predicts these things and the observations match. And there's no predictions for flat Earth that match. That makes perfect sense.
There with him to all the people that are saying that he's faking it. He's not. I was there. I am in no way going to attack Jeran's character in terms of if I think that he believes this or if he's being honest. I think that he does believe it. He does feel like he's being honest, and he feels that he's willing to take shots and attacks to do it. So that aside, because that doesn't really matter. Take all the personal stuff out of it. We're trying to figure out actually like what the truth is. Yes, I went to the south. We went to what is seemingly Antarctica, a giant sheet of ice south from Punta Arenas. We saw the sun, and it circled around us, and it didn't go down. So then to claim that proves that it's a globe, I would have to say, if the Earth's a sphere, in the winter, when I go to Antarctica, the sun will be in the sky for 24 hours. Oh, look, sun stays in the sky, does a circle for 24 hours, therefore Earth's a globe. It's a textbook affirming the consequent. Textbook affirming the consequent fallacy.
It's actually a textbook hypothesis. What's the basic structure of a scientific hypothesis? If something, then this should happen. Right? And then you go test it. So I'm looking for, all right, got it. I was looking, I found. So that's the, a textbook hypothesis is in the basic sense is a falsification test. Read Karl Popper, chapters 3 and 4. Cody Payne. If you want to have a good discussion on the philosophy of science and scientific method and stuff like that, do not read this book by called Ramblings of an Old Man by Michael Heffron about the scientific method. Don't read this one. Go talk to Cody Payne. He has got it going on. Anyway, this is the field of the philosophy of science is massive. So to just say the basis of a hypothesis is a falsification test leaves an awful lot of nuance out. But this isn't the thing to have a multi-hour discussion on that. There are many channels on YouTube and books and things that you can go into that have those discussions. So to boil it down, to simplify it, a falsification test is how you do a hypothesis in a very simple way. So the way that you structure that is, if this thing, then this thing. And Austin, being so ignorant of how science is done, thinks that the basis of how you construct a hypothesis, what does he do? He calls it a fallacy. Now, to be clear, if you conclude that if you say if A then B, right, and then B, then if you say B happened, that proves A. Well, no, it does not. Again, right here, no proof. No such thing as proof in science, right? So what you've done is you've attempted to falsify it and failed to falsify it, and then that suggests to you, oh, well, maybe it was true. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. You do it over and over and over. You do it multiple times, and after you've done it many times, and you've tried at different angles, different ways, different techniques to falsify it, well, you find, oh, well, it's refusing to become falsified. So then you can say, well, we're a bit more confident now that this is correct. But in the end, if you're going to be super pedantic, that's all you get is more likely that it's correct. So, PhD Tony says, is it fair to say Witsit is confusing scientific induction with strictly rigorous logic proof? I would not give him the benefit of that doubt. PhD Tony. Tony, I think that Austin is parroting Nathan Oakley. Nathan Oakley has said exactly that, and Austin is just parroting it. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't understand this topic. Neither does Oakley. But Oakley said it, and Austin heard him say it lots of times. And this is the problem. We humans often, we fall for this thing where we've heard something multiple times from different sources, especially sources that we trust, and we say, well, then it must be true. But that's not how you determine truthiness just because you heard it lots of times. You need to go and look at it, right? And even if it came from a trusted source, that doesn't make it true either. But we're all susceptible to that. Be aware of this in your own life. Something that I've become more aware of as I've been doing this, like, do I believe something because I heard it lots of times, or because there's actually, something behind it? So, Max says Oakley forced Witsit to accept that in the case is in that hot Flurf on Flurf action review you did not too long ago. Yes. Yep. Okay, let's go back. Got to keep the fallacy. He goes into fallacy overload in a little bit here.
I can say Sasquatch delivers me mail every Friday. I can go find out that there's mail in my mailbox on Friday. Therefore, Sasquatch is real. To apply that type of logic, it is an infinite regression. You would never find truth. So this is the reason why I haven't flipped. It's because of the empirical evidence, and we could list them off, and it's endless, right? Just the base empirical position, the default position based on empirical evidence that the Earth's flat. How are we even actually making accurate elevation angle measurements in the center of a continent if we're using a horizontal datum, a horizontal baseline that starts at the sea that's thousands of miles away? We extend that horizontally to the center of a continent and then measure a vertical distance above that.
That's not how it's done, though, right? Austin, not being a surveyor, doesn't know how that happens. Surveyors extend a curved surface from the shore to the to the inside of the continent. And they do that very rigorously and carefully. And they've found, amazing, that their techniques are so good that when they go all the way across the United States 125 years ago, that they were very close. Pretty cool. And so over time, these things have gotten better. So NAD 26, from 1926, was a horizontal datum across the United States. And how closely did it match? Pretty closely. That was updated in the 80s, the NAD 83, I believe. And so like one of, I think the 26 one was like the center of like a point. It was like fixed to the earth in Kansas, at one point in Kansas. And in 83, the one is done differently. And since then we've moved on to using WGS 84. But you can, if you go, this is a cool thing. One thing I like to do is I'll go to geodetic survey markers. I've got an app on my phone. I paid $10 for it. And when I'm out traveling somewhere and visiting somewhere, I'll pull up, I'll look on the phone and say, oh, look, there's a geodetic survey marker nearby. Let's go to it and I'll take some pictures of it. I did that in Cocoa Beach. I did that. I was in St. Cloud today playing disc golf, and across the street, I didn't go there. We didn't have time, but there was a geodetic survey marker near where we were playing disc golf. We did it in Colorado a couple times. My wife almost stepped on a rattlesnake because we went to go find one in Garden of the Gods. So when you pull up the data sheet on that, though, here's what's cool. They go, here's the position using coordinate system from, NAD 26. And here's a one doing coordinate system from 83. And here's a coordinate system using WGS 84. So John the Gamer's from Cocoa Beach. Dude, you should have totally come to the meetup. Anyway, go for fun. Grab that. It's $10 if you want, right? And go find some geodetic survey markers. It's kind of cool. It's super nerdy. So I don't know. It's not cool, actually. Not cool at all. It's super nerdy. And if you're into super nerdy, then it's cool.
Perpendicular to it. How is it that planar geometry is perfectly predicting and matching the angle to that star once it's occulted by the mountain? It matches the based on the time of the observer standing on the top of the mountain. You can draw a straight line from observer to top of the mountain to star, and it perfectly matches an angle down to a horizontal baseline with planar geometry. Where
again, I covered this. That's what I covered with a little bit ago. I don't know why he's looping around, because he doesn't have a lot of stuff. He didn't prepare. But like I said, this doesn't match flat Earth.
significantly different on a globe, but yet the star's not where it's supposed to be, and we can't invoke refraction because it's after the star is occulted.
1 minute.
So I will say, basically, what always happens is people say, well, then how would this work, this work, this work, this work? And if I don't get my answers, then you lose Earth's a globe, as if we are to grant them the presupposition of a model that they have reified. That is not how it works logically. So yes, in conclusion, the Earth default position is as a stationary topographical plane. The burden of proof is on the other side and needs to prove it. And when there's direct geometric refutations to that claim, they cannot be hand waved because there's another celestial observation that you think is better explained by that model that was just refuted, right? We can't actually skip over to that part. So that is very simply my position. And I think that is based on the logical parameters of how we actually examine the discussion in the first place. So.
And time. Cool. All right. Thank you, Austin.
Okay. So, so for reference, that was, so it was, each side gives their presentation, right? Jeran gave a presentation, and then Austin was to give a presentation, and Austin spent most of his presentation, like, for the shape of the Earth. he had two things that don't, wait, did it two? He had, well, three, all right? He had the celestial theodolite, which has been shown to match the globe closer than flat Earth. But it's all over the place. The problem with the celestial theodolite is the geometry is wrong. That's the problem with celestial theodolite. Hefferon just invented a method and assumed it was right without having anybody that understands the technique, understands the topic, look at it and say, well, yeah, here's where you got it right, or here's where you got it wrong. That was one. Number two, he talked about the electric field of the Earth, which he's wrong about. And number three, he talked about measuring angles to stars. And then he spent the rest of the time claiming that he didn't have the burden of proof. Right? But he claims the Earth is flat. since he claims the Earth is flat, he has the burden of proof, right? Austin, you say the Earth is flat, so what do you say about that?
The person making a positive claim has the burden of proof.
There you go. Okay. Larry Scott corrected me, is that 23 is 27. So NAD 27 is the horizontal datum, and NGVD 29 is the vertical datum. And so they went across the United States and found it was very close. But being perfectionists, the surveyors like, you know what? That whole datum here has a little bit of inaccuracy, and we don't like it. Let's redo it. So what do? They redo it. They get super, super close. Good for them. Okay, so that was their presentations. Austin just couldn't help but, kind of address, instead of presenting evidence for flat Earth, instead of that, he just addressed Jeran's presentation somewhat. So now we get to the Jeran rebutting Austin's presentation. Oh, yeah.
The next part of the debate is the rebuttals. And so we're going to afford Jeran 7 minutes to rebut to what he just heard.
So this is just me presenting myself. Okay, gotcha. It's not asking questions. That'll be okay. Gotcha.
Just going to respond to what Austin said.
Okay, thanks.
Let me add you to the full screen. All right, you're good.
Okay, so the issue I have there is that the way Austin's describing it, he's saying that if nobody can explain how something works, well, it doesn't mean it's not true. But we would never get to the truth if that were the case. If the case were that anything could be true, even if it doesn't have any explanation, doesn't explain anything, but somebody just says, well, I think it's true, because that's basically what he's saying, is that if we have different ideas on the shape of the Earth, he's saying it doesn't make a difference if one of them makes all the predictions and the other one makes none, because simply because you don't know how it works doesn't mean it's false. Oh, then that would be true for anything. So I think we live on a dog, and then you might say, well, that wouldn't work. How could we live on a dog? And I'd say, well, just because you don't understand how it works doesn't mean it's not true. So I mean, we could do that forever. We could live on anything then. I mean, there's no, you have a group of things that you look at, and then you find out which one better matches the observations. Now for me, the flat Earth better matches observations when you're talking about the Earth looks flat. It operates and appears flat. And everything we do is with the flat Earth. That's because no matter where you're at, it's flat. So you can treat.
Okay, so I don't know. I'm speculating. I think Jeran knows he's speaking to a group of flat earthers. Okay, and I think that he is tailoring his presentation to the audience there and granting some things that may or may not be something that he would normally grant. I don't know, but certainly, maybe he wouldn't say these things. Maybe he'd take a different angle if it wasn't a group of flat earthers. But Jeran is concerned that the existing flat earthers hear the actual presentation of reality here, and so he's talking to them. That's his audience. Now that's different from what I do when I'm debating. I'm not trying to convert the person that I'm debating, and I'm not trying to convince any flat earthers that might be watching. I'm hopefully, I do have in my mind that somebody that is maybe on the fence, but more likely somebody that at some point in the future might be exposed to a flat earth presentation of some sort, will have now received some sort of a backing so they don't fall for it. Some, kind of inoculation, if you will. So
treat the Earth completely and totally like it's a flat plane, and that's how you best do it when you're flying a plane, when you're building a bridge, when you're building a canal. If you took the curvature of the Earth into account, it wouldn't make any sense, because where we build is level. So we use a spirit level where we're at, and that is a level plane where it is. And yes, down the road that way or that way are not quite still level with where you're at, but that's not needed in any walk of life. We don't ever look down the way and say, oh, how do we line up with that? We just build a canal, we just build a bridge, we just build where we're at, we use a spirit level, and that's how it works on a sphere. You said that, I guess where I was confused, if all observations match predictions, then that's where you live. So I don't know how to better explain this, is that if you're given a map of your apartment complex and you're asking, hey, where's the laundry room? And they say, here's the map. And outside of your door, they show a pool, but there's no pool in front of you. You can then at that point take the map back to the office and say, this map is incorrect because it doesn't match observations. So we have a map like that. It's called the AE map, and it no longer matches the observations. Therefore, you can take it back to the office and say, hey, this map doesn't work anymore. And then you can take the globe and you can say, well, how about this one? And Austin mentioned going down to 80 degrees and seeing Punta Arenas and blah, blah, blah. And then he said, but that doesn't mean that the Earth's a sphere. Well, what it points out is that every single location that you or I have ever been to, and I dare say every single location that anybody watching this debate has been to, matches the observations given to us by mapping the Earth on a sphere. It does not match any flat plane, doesn't match any cylinder or pyramid. It matches a sphere. The Earth is mapped on a sphere. You can call any of your friends, no matter where they live, and ask them, hey, can you go check and see if the sunrise, sunset comport to this model and this prediction? And their answer every single time will be yes. We have Google Earth, which has never been disproven by one person. It doesn't get the angles of the sunrise and sunset wrong. It gets them right, and it's based on a sphere model. You talked about the celestial theodolite, but you need stellarium to even talk about it. So again, now you're using a globe Earth spherical system in order to tell me that the Earth is flat by using the numbers that the sphere system gives you. I'm not even going to go down that road. That seems to be preposterous on its face. Electrical field on the Earth. I don't know what you mean by linear distribution. You mean that it's, I guess I don't know what you mean. It goes up and in a linear fashion, I guess is what you mean. So I don't know why that wouldn't work on a sphere. As I said, wherever you're at is level. So therefore, above my head would be a linear progression of electrical field. Doesn't make a difference if the Earth's a sphere because it doesn't matter for where I'm at. You said we went south, we had a giant sheet of ice. Yeah, we did, but you have to remember we saw the sun south of us, and that refutes any flat Earth that's ever existed and will ever exist. That's the thing that people don't realize about this flat Earth. There'll never be another map, not for the rest of your life, not for the rest of your children's lives. There is no other way to map the Earth on a flat plane other than the AE map. That's it. And once the AE map has been falsified, we're done. It's time to get out. So you can go back to the drawing board if you want and play around. I did that for 6 months and realized that's it. There's no more. If the sun circles in Antarctica, then it matches all observations of the sphere.
So, Japur, Austin did 6 months before going to Antarctica. He had invited everybody on that he could find that was a flat earther to explain the possibility, like, of seeing a 24-hour sun. And Jeran knew if he was going to get an opportunity to go there, and the nameless, faceless, they actually were in charge of stuff, they would not let anybody go to Antarctica to see what happens there. But they did. Obviously, they don't exist. And so in that lead up there, Jeran had asked a bunch of flat earthers to come on and present their model for how it might work if they did see a 24-hour sun. And that informed Jeran what to test for, because Joe Hanvey talked about reflecting off the dome. Well, that's easy to test. Go check to see if it's a reflection. Lindsay something from New Zealand. Guy's nuts, totally insane. He came on twice. He just rambled incoherently for a while. Didn't have any. He's like, the sun is here and not moving, and then the light bends for no good reason, right? Jeran's like, that doesn't make sense. So anyway, that's what he meant by 6 months.
And that's what it did. And the you said about the consequent. Where I'm confused on that is, haven't you said before, Nathan Oakley and many people, they all say that the R value has been falsified, that the globe has been falsified. When you ask them why, they say if the Earth is a sphere, a blankety blankety blank, and right, and then it's distance to the horizon is 1.22 times the square root of right. Then the Earth's so then they're doing the same thing. So now the number one evidence of the flat Earth that you guys use, the black swan, is an affirming the consequent. You just said that. If it's not, then why can't somebody say, if the Earth is a sphere and the sun does this, then we would see this in the south, and we see that, therefore the Earth's a sphere. If that's not allowed, then neither is saying that the horizon is a little bit higher than it should be on that black swan. But by the way, I believe that guy Bo, who did that observation, says that he went out there every day for 6 months, and then he saw that observation. So now the flat Earth is using a 1 day out of 6 month observation.
Remember when Austin said, we're not going to take the 95% and throw them away for just the outliers? That's exactly what they do.
And going around telling people that that's proof that the Earth has been falsified. That's a joke. It's a literal joke that we would ever think an anomaly, meaning that 1 day out of, what would that be, 180, has an observation that makes the Earth flat, and so we're going to go around telling people that the globe Earth has been falsified because of an anomaly. That's crazy. So I think if you have different ideas about the shape of the Earth, which we did, again, I thought that the South was a lie. I thought that they were lying about the southern 24-hour sun. I thought they were lying about what happens south of the 60. That's why I thought they had the Antarctic Treaty. And guess what? I was wrong. When we go down there, we saw that the angles match perfectly in Punta Arenas. They had the sun going right to left. Again, people need to consider this. If you're on a flat Earth and you're at the south of South America, how is the sun going left? How is the sun going to the south? Guess what? There's a model that says the sun will go left, the sun goes south, it goes around the bottom of the Earth, comes back south of east. And that's exactly what we saw. So the globe Earth provides a, and again, I'll fully admit 100%, the globe is counterintuitive, but so is bugs in your tummy. So are a lot of things that we realize now are true. Go take a microscope and pull some bile out of your stomach, and you're going to see little swimming creatures. Now, you don't feel like they're in there, but they are. So the globe Earth is the same. You may feel like the Earth's flat. We may feel like there is no curvature. However, we just don't understand large spheres. A sphere can be so big, 24,901 miles in circumference, that you can't tell that it's curved because we're too small. That's how the Earth is a sphere and how it is kind of beautifully created because you don't have to treat it like it's a sphere. It actually doesn't matter to your life. If you want to be a flat earther, that's fine, but get out of scientific studies, get out of scientific debates because you don't have the kind of evidence to go up against a globe. You have to better present the world than the globe does. And the flat earth can't explain anything. So that's basically it. Get my time.
All right, so so I had mentioned earlier that I thought Jeran was tailoring his words here for his audience, and he confirmed that he knew his audience. Right, he knew. So thank you for the confirmation there, Jeran. And I mean, it's correct because the amount of curvature in a small space is nominal. Then if you treat it as a sphere or treat it as flat, the error margin is extremely small for short distances. And so PhD Tony says, saying the flat Earth models are geometrically and geophysically accurate over small length and angular scales is entirely valid, and that's correct. And flatties don't get that, right? When you do surveying, and they're like, well, for a small enough area, they can do surveying without including curvature of the Earth in the computations. But if they're doing a larger area, they have to. But it also depends on their margin of error. And that's only for horizontal angles. And I gotta, this is, flatties don't get this. This is, you've got horizontal measurements. That's how far is it from here to here. And on a globe, because they're you've got to go over the curve. That distance is if it's a long distance, you need to include the curvature of the Earth in it because it's not a straight line. You have to take an arc. Okay, but if it's a small enough area where are these both vertical or parallel, right, or not? Here, let me move one so that it's not. There. Is it? You can't tell, right? It's called, when you have a something that in the area you're in, it acts as if it's flat even though it's curved. It's called a manifold. Look it up. And so the surface of the Earth is a manifold. We can if we don't need to worry about that chord length, that arcing chord length for something that's 10 miles long. Because the difference in the chord length versus the arc length at 10 miles is like less than a centimeter. But when you're looking at 100 miles, it's more than that. But vertical measurements, where you're looking at the angle, the vertical angle, those you do need to take into account even for planar surveying. What's called planar surveying, you still account for the front to back curve of the Earth, sort of. When you're doing that kind of survey work.
And time.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Jeran, for your rebuttal. And next is Austin. You have 7 minutes as your rebuttal. I'll start the timer when you begin talking.
All right, cool. All right, so to rebut your opener and kind of some of the stuff you said right there, I'm just going to list off kind of what's wrong with these arguments. Okay, so we have, again, like I described actually earlier, we have shifting the burden of proof. That's when you make a positive claim. If someone challenges or denies your positive claim, you then tell them they have to prove it. Meaning, if we challenge or deny your claim that the reason that we see that the sun's up in the sky doing a circle for 24 hours is actually because we're tilted antipodal to someone on the other side of this presupposed globe. That actually the sun is 93 million miles away and there's an empty vacuum between us. And therefore, because all of the stars are at such immense distances that we don't ever see them, and that perspective doesn't actually affect where we see them, even though it moves just as if it would be because of perspective like everywhere else. And then about 5 more presuppositions. And you actually require these presuppositions to claim that geometric position of you on the globe is why you see the sun do that. So you list all of those off and then say, if that's not the case, which most of the people defending the globe, they just expect this to be granted. They very conveniently omit that it requires that many presuppositions.
Those are not presuppositions. Those are all measured. All of them. The distance to the sun, measured. Totally measured. All right. Thanks, Jeran. You just sent me a message. The distance to stars, measured. The angle of the Earth's tilt, measured. All these things are measured. They're not presuppositions, right? This is just an ignorance on your part.
To even then affirm the consequent that viewing the sun is that way. right? You have to do all of those. You have to claim all of those presuppositions and reify them, presuppose them, and then affirm the consequent to address the idea that we're doing the same thing. We are not, right? Like the black swan argument, for example, was if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3,959 miles, and the
Wait, you can't do that. That's affirming the consequent.
geometric physical horizon is at 1.225 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. It is not, so therefore the Earth is not a sphere. That is a falsification of a positive claim, as opposed.
Oh, well, here's an easy one then. If the Earth is flat, then nothing can be obstructed bottom up over the surface of flat water. Things are obstructed bottom up over the surface of the water. Therefore, the Earth is not flat. You see, we get to do the same thing. I'm perfectly fine with that. Now, here's the difference. I can look at the black swan and say, look, you cherry-picked one out of many, many examples. You look at the other examples. Well, wait a second. There's something inconsistent here. Obviously, you look at those cranes, the wavy cranes. There's something that you did not account for in your application of physics, optics, and geometry. That's the error. Okay. Now, if you think that I am in error, and there are ways to do that, ways to take that into account. So the other side, then, if we say, well, nothing can obstruct the bottom of something over the surface of water, flat earthers, they say word salad, right? Word salad, but they don't have actual empirical evidence that you can say, well, here is how it does it. Here is the physics, optics, geometry for how things are obstructed bottom up over a flat surface. Instead, they'll take a coin and they'll put the coin on the surface of the table, but they'll put the camera below the surface of the table. You can't see the surface of the table. That's how you know they're lying. And then they'll move it away and they'll say, look, it's being obstructed bottom up. I know it is because you've got the surface of the table in the way. That's what we say the globe is doing. The surface of it is getting in the way. You've put the camera just like on the globe. Now, if you want it to be flat earth, we need to see the surface of this table. Because when we're at the beach, we see the surface of the water. All right. We've got more fallacies coming.
Opposed to affirming the consequent, which is if the Earth is a sphere, we'll see the sun be in the sky for 24 hours. We see the sun in the sky for 24 hours, therefore Earth is a sphere. That's affirming the consequent. Making a positive claim, presupposing the actual thing in question, and then just affirm it because of the outcome, like the actual observation itself, right? So as if to exclude any alternative possibility. This is why it's logically fallacious, right? And then, of course, like the straw man of like, it could be a dog. No, the position specifically is that we physically, empirically measure the surface. We utilize the surface to actually be a topographical plane. And then I listed off specific reasons why we have to utilize it to be a plane in the first place. And we can talk more about the positive evidence. I want to just specifically rebut these things. So we have.
So every time, here's one of Austin's tells. Whenever he says, we can talk more about, he's blowing it off and he's never going to talk about it again in that debate. That's what that means. That's one of his tricks. It's probably subconscious, but that's where he's not going to talk about that again. He's not going to bring it up. He's posturing to his audience as if he's okay talking. Oh yeah, I could totally address that. But no, they never do bring it up.
Shifting the burden of proof, affirming the consequent. Your whole opening really was like poisoning the well as well, right? Kind of like a hasty generalization, because there certainly are some people that act that way within the idea of flat Earth. Hasty generalization fallacy to put them all together. Then kind of a stereotype fallacy, right, to describe what we all are, right? And then a genetic fallacy, because those people are like that, anything coming from them must not be true. And then, and these fallacies are packed into one. And then you use that to poison the well the entire time, right? Which is incredibly fallacious. And there were lots of ad homs in there, and then a lot of people that are not here, and I'm not going to answer for what they did or didn't say. I do also know, like, in good faith, I'll acknowledge that there's obviously a lot of context and
Holy cow. My list is off the screen. So hold on. There we go.
history kind of leading up to this debate and what decided when Jeran. You did say that you tested it and tried to explain it for 6 months, and then you decided, well, really right when we got back, you started saying the Earth was a globe. It wasn't that you tested it and looked for alternative explanations. Okay. There you go. 6 months before. So, okay. And then begging the question, it's kind of the same thing as for him, the consequence, just an informal, right? And then it was a lot of kind of an appeal to an emotion, right? That's where it's really kind of irrelevant how these people act. They all turned on me as well, arguably more. And this is a big one. It's a false dilemma. It's a false dichotomy, which is either it's that AE map or it's my presupposed globe, and there's no other alternatives. And so since I don't think that this observation works on the AE map, therefore it must be a globe. It's a false dichotomy fallacy. And there were many straw mans.
So just for reference, it's not a false dilemma because Austin says the Earth is flat, and Austin has presented the flat Earth model, the AE map. So without saying AE map or Gleason's map, how would you describe this? How would you describe this? You would say the sun does circles around the North Pole. You would say the Antarctica is around the perimeter. Right? How else would you describe this? Like those things, right? What else would you use to that? You'd say the sun is up above the surface all the time. It never goes under, like it would, like in the ancient cosmologies thought it did, right? Moon would be same thing, and it gets too far away to see, right? What else? You would say you measure angles to Polaris to get latitude. Angles to Polaris to get latitude is the AE map. When you say that, only the AE map is what you described. And only in the Northern Hemisphere. Right? Your list needs an infinite scroll bar. All right, let's see. Effed Up World is here being a moron. Of course, he's always a moron. Let's see. Earth's axial tilt is evident in the tropics, says Larry Scott. Okay, there's only one flat Earth map that gets distance from the North Pole correct for all points on Earth and has longitude that makes sense. Yep. Now, Effed Up World can be in here spreading his derp, I guess. That's okay for now. Anyway, so those are the ways that you would use words to describe this. So Austin is trying to squirm out of using this, but he constantly describes this. And when you ask him for an example, that's the only one that he ever presents. Now, the reason why this is really the only one that flat earthers use, except for a couple insane people like this, literally like mentally ill people, is because in order to do something other than this, what keeps the water in, right? You need Antarctica keeps the water in, and that's their cope, right? And then the dome comes down over that, right? So that's, and they're like, oh, well, Isaiah 40:22 says he sitteth above the circle of the earth. Well, there you go. So everybody that says Isaiah 40:22, this is their map. All the biblical flat earthers, this is their map. They don't get to say we don't have a map because they say earth, he sits above the circle. This is the circle they're talking about. What other map are you talking about? Now, you know what Austin has said since then. He said, oh, well, there's a dual pole map that people are talking about. That, you know where that came from? Flat Earth Society forums. Go to the Flat Earth Society forums. Prior to any of the existing flat earthers on YouTube, you will find them talking about a dual pole map where you've got the North Pole at the top of the map, then the South Pole at the bottom of the map, and they've got this weird, like, obviously distorted layout of the continents. And you know what's around it? What's circling it? Water. So if you fly one direction, you got it right there. You're going and you get to the edge and you're like, boop, I'm over here. You have to teleport. You need portals. You get it to the edge. Boop, I'm over here. That's how it happens, right? So all the other maps other than this one, with no exception, they have teleportation. They have portals. Hey, if you're for that, then you're dumb. And you're funny because we can point at you and laugh. Is Awake Soul still here? He's one of them. He's got a map that's even more insane than that dual one because he's got a wavy equator. The equator cannot be wavy. That doesn't make any sense at all. But to him, like, oh yeah, wavy equator. Nailed it. With Pac-Man teleportation going off one end and coming in the other. Right? But not top. You can't go up and then teleport to the bottom on these rectangular maps. What happens if you go north off of the map that Awake Souls has? Don't know. He doesn't know either. But I'll tell you, if you look at that map and you got the magical teleportation on the left and right sides, east and west, then you should have magical teleportation on the top and bottom. So if you're in the northern part of Alaska and you want to get to Antarctica, you just go north. It's not far at all. You'll hit that magic portal Pac-Man wall and you're down at the bottom. Amazing. But no, in reality, that doesn't happen. So Awake Souls is literally mentally ill, and he is in the chat still. Hi, Awake Souls. You should get yourself checked into a place that has soft walls and jackets that make you hug yourself all the time. So anyway, Austin describes this map. Don't ever get confused. If they say angles to Polaris, that's AE map. Hi, Nathan Oakley. You think that the Earth is this map when you say angles to Polaris. When they say the sun does circles, that's this, right? So, I don't know. What else? Let's go.
As I've never even claimed that model to be true. I've actually said the opposite for a very long time. So, and again, the big one being the argument from incredulity. So I will say all of these claimed evidences, they require, I wish I knew the time. All these claimed evidences, time?
You have 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. All these claimed evidences are presupposing so many things, bro. And that's the part that I'm very perplexed about, because we have all sat here and we've realized that we need to suspend belief. Not believing in the globe is a suspension of belief. And you're approaching this as if, no, it's actually us coming in and we have a super staunch positive belief. That is not my position at all. I am suspending belief, wiping the board clean, and be like, okay, what can be empirically validated? I'm not going to presuppose things. Again, let's just stick with the 24-hour sun. To say that the 24-hour sun, because you just defended it, you just stated the conclusion in your opener. You stated the conclusion as a fact, right? So you're just saying that we saw it, therefore we proved it. You just told us about how it was definitively proof, not really how it wasn't, or how it was proof. And then when you kind of even went in that direction, it was because I don't understand the alternative. I don't see how that could possibly work on the alternative. It matches the globe perfectly, which again affirms the consequent. So I want everyone to just think about this. So to claim that the reason we saw what we saw in Antarctica is because we're on a sphere, we're going to claim that all the stars in the sky are infinite distances away. So far away that when we move across the surface of the Earth and it looks like they drop down when we move further away from them, it isn't because of perspective. How perspective changes everything else in the world. And when we see a plane fly away from us and it goes down, right, and it comes close to us and it goes up, perspective affects everything in the world. We use special pleading, which is claiming the exclusion to a universal principle, the exception to a universal principle, which is no, actually the sky is the one exception, the star is the one exception. Perspective doesn't change it. It does exactly what perspective would do to change the position, but it isn't because of perspective. And then to make that, so we have to presuppose that to even claim the globe is possible. That's why they've changed the distance so many times and kept pushing it back. Then to claim that those stars are that far away, you then have to answer the question of how would you be able to see it from that far away? So now you have to assume that there is a vacuum, that there's nothing between us, a near perfect vacuum, so you could even see
1 minute.
And then you stack those on top of each other to come over and say, therefore, we're physically changing direction. It makes the perspective look as if it would if we were on a horizontal plane, but it's not perspective. And therefore, we see the sun where it is. And you have to assume the distance, pretty much assume the 93 million miles as well. So that's my main issue with this, is that before we even get to affirming the consequent, we have to, presuppose like 7 or 8 things. And that's kind of my rebuttal. I listed off all the fallacies. I won't listen back. I don't think I have a full enough time, but the big ones are argument from incredulity, an appeal to ignorance. You have shifting the burden of proof. You have begging the question, appeal to pity.
Oh, hold on. Holy cow. Appeal to ignorance. This is new, an appeal to pity, he just said. Oh my goodness, so many fallacies, Austin.
Direction. It makes the perspective look as if it would if we were on a horizontal plane, but
I
it's
had
not
to back up a little bit.
And therefore, we see the sun where it is. And you have to assume the distance, pretty much assume the 93 million miles as well. So that's my main issue with this, is that before we even get to affirming the consequent, we have to, presuppose like 7 or 8 things. And that's kind of my rebuttal. I listed off all the fallacies. I won't listen back. I don't think I have a full enough time, but the big ones are argument from incredulity, an appeal to ignorance. You have shifting the burden of proof. You have begging the question, appeal to pity or emotion, false dilemma, slippery slope, strawman fallacy, affirming the consequent, ad homs, hasty generalizations, reification fallacies. And that's the issue, is that every single one of the arguments I've heard so far have literally been a textbook fallacy. So we can get into the specifics going forward.
We can get into the specifics, meaning he's not going to get into the specifics.
And time. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for your rebuttals. And I think I want to announce to the audience right now, go ahead and start submitting your questions to the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Click that box. The Q&A should open as a pop-up. Be sure to submit your questions. And for the next 30 minutes, we're going to engage in an open cross-exam between Austin and Jeran.
I think it'd be good if we kind of go through and, maybe I'll ask a question of you, you can answer it, then you do one of me, just so that we can kind of stay on these topics, because I think you've hit some good points that I want to kind of iron through. So the first one is that the stars do not act as perspective acts. Perspective does not adjust equally, meaning that if I move a certain distance, it lowers a certain distance, and if I move a certain more distance, it lowers the exact same distance. If anybody wants to go outside tonight, find a northbound longitude line and measure wherever 69 miles from you will be. When you get there, the North Star will change its position by 1 degree. Well, guess what 360 times 69 miles is? 24,901. Why is that? Because that's the shape of the Earth. That's the circumference of the Earth. You can go prove it tonight yourself. You don't need anybody. But flat earthers aren't going to tell you that. They're going to tell you, oh, it's perspective, and that's how perspective works. It's not how perspective works. Go measure the height of a telephone pole, walk halfway to it, measure it again, walk another same amount of distance, and you'll notice that it changes it. If you're walking towards a building, it gets bigger faster as you get closer to the building than it does when you're far away. This is not how the stars work. So the stars, he was false in that. He said that the stars operate as perspective would. That's not true. They don't.
This is really good. Jeran got this right. I don't know if he, like, is this something that he's come to understand since then? Because I know he said, like, something clicked. One day something clicked and, like, everything just started, like, his brain started working again or something. But his treatment of his response to this, it's perspective is spot on. It's really good. Because it is perspective, right? Perspective is things get smaller when you're farther away from them. They appear smaller. But also their position in the sky, like if there's something high above you in the sky, its position shifts, and you can determine where it would be by just saying, well, the gap between that object and some other object gets smaller. Remember, perspective makes things appear smaller as you're farther away. The gap between things is something that appears smaller when you're farther away, right? So nice and close gap. Here we go. Right here. Look at this. Okay, it's as close as the two shelves. You see the two shelves, right? And I get farther away. That gap between my fingers got smaller. That's what happens. So perspective on flat Earth means that between the flatness and a star, when you get farther away, would have to shrink. The gap would have to shrink. Yes, but by how much? Arc, tan, rise over run. That's how much. You know, that's a little bit of trigonometry. You don't need to worry about it specifically, but the point is that we know the geometric relationship about how much that gap should shrink over flatness when you move farther away. And we know how much that gap should shrink over the surface of a sphere as you move your position on the surface of that sphere. It matches the surface of a sphere. It does not match the surface of flatness. Because the flatness would have to be, like I said, arctangent. So arctangent approaches a line and then never touches that line. It never crosses. So on a flat surface, according to perspective, nothing would ever cross the flatness. It would always be above it, right? And the fancy word is it's an asymptote. It approaches the line, the horizon, but never touches it. And one more example: if you look at a street light, and let's say you're 100 feet from the street light, and then there's another street light that's 200 feet away, that angular drop of the first street light to the second street light is a certain amount. Okay, when you go from the 200 foot away streetlight to the 300 foot away streetlight, that drop happens again, but it's not as much. And every time you go another 100 feet, it drops, but not as much as the previous time. The drop amount shrinks over and over and over. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller until when you're looking at something that's 10,000 feet away and 10,100 feet away, the angular drop is incredibly small. That is not what we observe with the stars in reality. In reality, we see that you move a certain distance away and they drop a certain amount. You move another distance away, it drops the same amount. You drop again, it drops the same amount. Every time you move the same distance, it drops the same amount. That is perspective, but that's perspective on the surface of a sphere. All right. It's Austin, for being so good at math, doesn't have a damn clue.
Don't. What's your, I guess
Wait, let's stop right there. Let's stop there. So you agree, like if a plane flies over your head and goes away, it looks like it's going down. As it flies close, okay. So perspective does in fact cause things in the distance to appear to go down towards the horizon and converge into that place.
Agree.
And, okay. So that's what I'm not talking about the exact ratio. The sky is for sure a very interesting phenomena, right? I mean, indisputably in
No, actually, yeah, it's very cool. But we get it. We understand the geometry of it. We do. Austin, you don't understand the geometry of the globe, and you also don't understand the geometry of flat Earth.
the paradigm of the globe. It's like wildly crazy
Systems are
phenomenon.
wild. Yeah, the things are pretty crazy. But I think that the flat Earth model that calls for stars circling your head would have parallax issues. They would have all kinds of stuff that we don't see anything of, right? We don't see the constellations change their orientation. So it does do exactly what the sphere calls for with these stars at a very, very far distance.
Well, let's just talk about it. So like, okay, so perspective does cause things to look like it goes down when it goes away from you, and the stars do that. So like I said,
But at a predictable exact rate. So like if you did that with perspective, you wouldn't get the same. We move 69 miles north, the star drops 1 degree. 69 more miles, 1 degree. 69. That's not how anything perspective works. If you did
that actually isn't even entirely true, right? So there is, yeah. So it's claimed to have like a linear 1-to-1 ratio. This actually isn't true though. Like if you actually look at like the celestial navigation, like the manuals, right? You cannot take any of the angles like all the way up to something like 15 degrees, and then a few degrees away from 90. You can't even take them. And so actually, it's like
So the reason why is so he's talking about measuring angles that navigators use. They don't measure angles that are rather close to the horizon. And the reason why is because they all right, I'm moving this here. There we go. Is because refraction changes them. And how much does refraction change the elevation of the star? It varies on conditions. And so how when you're creating tables for celestial navigation, how do you deal with that? Well, you can't, because you can't know those conditions. You could take a guess at them, and you could put in your tables, you can say, well, here is a kind of a base case of what we should see. But the specific conditions can change it a lot. And so what they do is they say, don't measure below 15 degrees elevation, because we can't pre-compute how much it will be. There are plenty of stars in the sky. Choose a star that's higher than that. And so their tables don't go down to 15 degrees, don't go below 15 degrees. So some of the older ones, I'll tell you this, some of the older ones, if you go to the 1700s, they do have charts farther down than 15 degrees. They do. You can use them, but it's a base case that can't take into the account the exact conditions. Mr. E-Man says you should not use the extreme cases when people's lives are at stake. Of course. And when you're doing celestial navigation, people's lives are at stake. So don't take those. Yeah, you don't take those into account. I want to hear a little bit of what he said, a little more. I'm going to go back a tiny bit here.
Like a geometry, but everyone just says it's 69 miles, it just works, and everyone acts like it works. It doesn't. It like factually doesn't. You can't actually use the angles to the stars lower down, meaning as things get closer and closer to the horizon, right, that claimed linear ratio doesn't happen at all. And
Yeah, because of refraction. Got it.
just to make the bigger claim though, because I don't want to get lost, what I'm saying is it is special pleading in that we're claiming the exception to a universal principle, which is everywhere else when we look, we know that because of perspective, that things get further away, they appear to go down, right? And we see the sky appear to go down, but the globe is claiming, so yeah, it has the same effect as perspective, but it isn't because of perspective. It's because we're physically changing our orientation, right? We agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just want to know if you're talking about if perspective is a mathematical equation, is there a formula for perspective?
Ooh. Jeran going in for the jugular here.
Well, that's a good question, right? People do use a formula for perspective, but I don't agree with it.
You don't agree with it? Why do you don't agree with it, Austin? Is it because you so smart at math?
And so,
Okay,
if you actually look into it, it's well known that like visual space is much more complex than this really rudimentary trigonometry that people try to use.
Oh, it's well known that visual space. Oh, let me tell you what he's talking about here. I love this one. He's talking about a group of papers that Gleam, if you know Gleam had brought in a few years ago and gave to Austin and a bunch of other people, where some people had measured humans' ability to measure distances and angles using our eyes. And we aren't good at that. Our eyes are no good at being precise measurement devices, contrary to flat earthers' position. So Austin has found some papers that identify that humans are not good at measuring angles. Now, one of the papers, this is my favorite one. One of the papers used had people at a certain distance from some object, and they would say, well, that object is this far away from me, and that object is this far away from me, right? And they found that when they were close, people were off one direction, and when they're far, people were in a different direction. Okay, so like, oh well, there's non-linear visual space. Non-linear visual space for humans' ability to measure distances using their eyeballs. But how did they measure the distances actually? They used a theodolite. They used a precision angle measuring device to determine how far these things were away. So that very paper confirms that measurement devices other than human eyes are great at measuring distances and angles using geometry. Amazing. Thank you. First law of Flerf was created just for cases like this.
Assuming that there's linear visual space. And this has been tested and written about at some of the highest levels all
Are
the
you
time.
saying that do you think if we went to 25 degrees north and then we kept going 1 degree or north each time, so we get up to 45 degrees, are you saying that the star wouldn't adjust by exactly that amount of degrees based on if we go 69 miles north, 69 again, say we do it 10 times, it's 690 degrees, 10 steps of that way, so the North Star would be 10 degrees different. You agree with that?
It will be, yeah, it'll be very close. It will not be exact. And
It
has to be exact. Does it have to be exact, Austin?
25 and 45 degrees, it should be close, right? Because you're not in the refraction zones.
okay, so that's what you're saying. Let's make sure everyone understands this. Conveniently, we call the refraction zones all the way up to like 15 degrees or more above the horizon, because what actually happens is the stars start to act way different, right? I mean, that's 15 degrees is super high above the horizon, right?
I agree.
No, but the stars start acting different. Well,
Super
this is what
high.
a hyperbolic visual space would predict. It would be a logarithmic relationship. So like on the globe, it's very simple. We're standing on a globe. There's basically nothing between us and the stars. They're super far away. So the only reason the stars look like they change positions is because we're tipping over. But that's actually not what we observe in reality.
That is exactly what we observe. Like Jeran said, between 25 degrees and 45 degrees, that's a great example because the amount of refraction is nominal. And so, yes, nothing is perfect in meat space. But the difference is right in there, right? With your margin of error that you want, it's spot on. But it does not match flat Earth. So if you take the angle to Polaris from 25 degrees north latitude, and you know how far you are from the North Pole on the map that you all use, like it or not, you use this map. As soon as you say angle to Polaris, this is your map. And at 25 degrees north latitude, we know how far we are from the North Pole. 69 miles for every degree, and you're at 25 degrees north of the equator. We know how far that is, right? Let me get the actual number in miles. Where'd my calculator go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? It's not in front. It's not on my screen. I don't know where it is. Hold on a second. I'm going to have to use my phone calculator. I think something's in front of my my calculator on screen. I don't know where it is. It's crazy. All right, we've got that. 4,485 miles to the North Pole. So, you could do this here. Let's go. Let's go here. These kinds of things are not difficult to do. You don't have to do the calc yourself, or the trig yourself. All right. So here it is. Oh, I gotta get Witsit's hit Hubris Valley Ranch out of the way. Okay, so we know the distance. We've got B here is the distance, right? 4485. We don't know the height, and we don't know the hypotenuse, but we know the angle. Angle there is 25 degrees. And we know then this is a right triangle, right? So we've got 3 out of the 6 items of the triangle. We can compute it. And so now how high is Polaris according to Flat Earth? That's A right here, okay? And A is 2,091 miles. I like the advertisement I got there. I don't know what they're trying to tell me. What are you trying to say? Advertisement. All right, I'm going to write this down. So we've got 25 degrees north is 4485 miles. All right, I would normally do this in kilometers, but the audience, a lot of Americans, we do it in miles, so it's okay. And then the height of the sun has to be for Flat Earth 2091. Or sorry, not the sun, Polaris. Okay, I'm writing this down here so we can come back to 2091. Okay. Now, when you go, here is applying perspective for Flat Earth. Let's move to 45 degrees north. Now we know now we've measured the height of the sun, or not the sun, Polaris. We've measured the height of Polaris on Flat Earth. It is 2,091 miles. Now, when we're at 45 degrees north, how far are we from the North Pole? It's 3105. 3105. So now we can put that in. So we know the distance. It's not 4481, it's 3105. But now we don't know what angle. So what angle does Flat Earth demand that Polaris be when you're at 45 degrees north if you started at 25? This is perspective. This is applying perspective. Let's calculate. The angle at 45 degrees north for Flat Earth, right? That's A right here, must be 33.9 degrees. So 34 degrees. 34. But what do we find? In reality, 45 degrees. It's off by 11 degrees. That's a lot. That's a lot. This is applying perspective, flatties. You don't get to talk about perspective on Flat Earth. It fails when you test it. Every time. All right.
All the way 15 degrees or more, we start to see them start to compress and get logarithmic, meaning that the way that they change is exponentially different. And even
it's neither logarithmic nor exponential. They do, if it was, they do eventually cross the horizon, but it's not logarithmic and it's not exponential. But he doesn't know the correct terms, so he can't use the correct terms.
All the way up towards 90. So you're told specifically not to utilize those. So we can say it's refraction. That's not even like a realistic or viable explanation, like 15 degrees. So conveniently, the difference in the linear perspective and a hyperbolic perspective, it's a wash, right? According to the globe, it's just conveniently, we're going to change that range and not use it. We're not going to use the range that would be different between a linear and a hyperbolic visual space.
What is the formula for the hyperbolic visual space, Austin? You're so good at math. What is it? You don't know.
place. Is that
So-
also the place where refraction would cause issues with the observations of stars?
15 degrees above the horizon?
Sure. I mean, if you're looking out in a direction, that's not very high, and that's where all the atmosphere is, right? So you're going to be looking through the most amount of atmosphere at about 10 to 15 degrees from the ground. That's where you're going to have, if, again, I'm saying if refraction is true, which I believe that it is, and then you just have to say, well, that's what the globe is saying, is that the reason that the stars get mushed together is because they are being refracted, or they kind of disappear, they kind of get faded in that area. So again, I don't know if that's really, because I'm saying we could still take the distance away from 15 and away from 90, and then we could, if that's working perfectly as a sphere, that'd be really weird that that works as a sphere, but not the 15 degrees that we have left to go. So, I mean, you could just keep doing that one section that you have, and you would be able to figure out that the Earth is 24,901 miles around, simply because we can keep going north, and you would always get 1 degree every 69 miles. So I see what you're saying. I mean, again, you're just going to claim that that's, I'll have to look into what exactly the formula is, because I do know that refraction does break down as well. Not refraction, sorry. The perspective breaks down close to you and far away from you.
It does because of the way that everyone tries to use like linear geometry for perspective. So like, and this is just an assumption, but this has actually been written about for decades, and it just, people don't even want to go touch it. And like, I've done a stream on this, right? The very basic way to disprove this idea, because when we look at railroads, we know that they're physically parallel in reality, but they look like they converge. Okay, but according to planar geometry, they don't ever converge. They're just parallel. So if we were seeing in planar geometry, we would see them just remain parallel. So,
And that's what we see. But what do you, no, wait a second, hold on. We would see them parallel? How, hold on. Just a second here. He thinks that they should not converge. Is that what he's thinking? If we saw in linear space, then they would not appear to converge? Is that what he's saying? Because that's wrong. I wait. There's no way he thinks that. There's no way. I gotta back it up. That's too stupid.
planar geometry, they don't ever converge. They're just parallel. So if we were seeing in planar geometry, we would see them just remain parallel. So
Yep, that's what he said. He's that dumb. I mean, I know he's dumb, but I didn't think he was that dumb. Like, in his tiny little minuscule walnut brain, Austin thinks that if we saw in linear space that railroad tracks would not appear to converge. I think that's what he's saying. I think that's what he's saying. I mean, it's such a dumb thing that I'm cautious putting that on him. It's such a spectacularly stupid claim. Okay, here's why. Like I showed you, solving triangles, right? You can solve triangles. So when you're looking at some train tracks, okay, and this is a right triangle, so it's half of a. You know what? Here. So the here it is. Okay. So we've got this is the angular diameter formula, the one that Austin knows about but doesn't actually know about. I have a old video where I actually go through the derivation of this. So this is what you see, right? This is the angle that something appears to you, and this is how big the thing actually is linearly, and then this D, this capital D, is how far away it is. Okay? And this is the formula. Right there. We've got 2 times arctan of D, the linear size is how the diameter of the thing, right? Over 2D, the distance, 2 times the distance. And so when you have train tracks that are near, you've got this. They have an angular size matching that when they're near, right? When this is, like I talked about with the street light, when it's 100 feet away. And now you move the train tracks to 200 feet away. Okay, now this distance got bigger, and so this angle here gets smaller. This is linear visual space. These are all lines. Nothing hyperbolic, nothing parabolic, nothing non-Euclidean about it. So I think he's that dumb. I think he is actually that dumb. I don't know. Anyway, so maybe, hey, if I'm wrong, if he's not actually that dumb, correct me. But I think he is. I dare you say linearly 5 times fast. Pass. All right. we need this back up on screen. Here we go. All right.
Obviously, there's a difference between how we see in actual plane geometry, right? Because it's converging. They appear to converge. And what they end up saying is, oh, well, we have a formula for that. Yeah, you made a corrective adjustment to the trigonometry because planar geometry doesn't work. And this has been like...
This is planar geometry. You douche face. This is not a fudge factor. This is simple geometry. This is covered in high school. And actually, this is covered in middle school without the trig, right? Like get out your compass and your protractor. Protractor being an angleometer, measures angles. And you can do this, right? Draw on graph paper something at one distance and draw on graph paper something at a different distance and measure the angle. Draw straight lines from the point to the top and bottom of it, and then get your protractor out, your angleometer, and measure the angle, right? This is done in middle school, and Austin's like, it's a fudge factor. It's not curved. Oh my gosh. Veritas, how you doing?
Like a well-known problem. It's just like the elephant in the room in any discussion about visual space. And I will say they actually recently had to address it because they were utilizing planar geometry for perspective with robotics, which required extreme precision. And the robots were off. They couldn't accurately position things even in small rooms because it was such a precise need of visual alignment. So they actually had to start to integrate like hyperbolic visual space. So now.
Oh my gosh. I'd love to see that citation, Austin. I'm sure it has absolutely nothing to do with what you think it does.
Now we have a huge situation where we're assuming that we see in straight lines on a
We do, yeah.
globe, and we map the whole globe out that way. And if we actually see with curved visual space, right there, if perspective is not perfectly linear, the globe can't be true, like on space, because that's like.
What, it has to be perfect for the globe to. It has to be perfect, but for flat Earth. Never mind, nothing's accurate at all. You can't even put together the slightest little guess as to why. But it's totally flat with that kind of slop, but the globe has to be absolutely 100% perfect. No, that's not how it works.
Every angle measurement, the way the entire globe model is set up, it's based on assumed straight lines that we see in. So we actually don't even see it that way. And
So you're saying that we see curved lines to the stars?
I'm saying that like the collective visual space itself, yes, like towards the bottom, what happens is the extremity. So like towards as far as you can see, when you get closer and closer to the limit of how far you can see, you start to have like an actual curved convergence.
No.
But we don't see that with the stars, right?
No.
We do see that with the stars, and that's why even in the manuals they say don't even take the measurements like up to 15 degrees.
They say that because of refraction, Austin. Don't lie about why they say that.
So I meant, do we see, you were talking about like railroad tracks converging in the distance. So things as they go away from us converge, but stars don't do that. Is what I'm saying. The stars.
Oh no, yeah, they definitely don't do it like the rate. If they do, it's like hard to even notice at all for sure. But that's why I did immediately concede that yes, the sky isn't just like very basic, but they're in like a different realm almost, right? We don't, regardless of what you think about the Earth, it's well known that what happens in the sky is like something totally.
Every time he says it's well known, it's not well known. It's probably a misunderstanding amongst flat earthers, and it's well known amongst his little clique of flat earthers. That's what he means by well known.
Different, right? Like we don't know. Like according to the globe, it's pretty crazy as well. It's actually, I would say, much crazier. I'm not claiming to know exactly how the sky works, and I'm also acknowledging that perspective is not exactly like this 1-to-1. I don't even believe that it is linear. The evidence shows on the Earth that perspective is not that way. So now if we're going to add way more distances to the stars, right, we have to account for curved visual space.
Let me just say.
Again, one more time, just to remind, this curved visual space stuff he's talking about is humans' inability to measure distances using their eyeballs. And specifically in those papers, they're talking about human binocular vision. Binocular, 2 eyeballs. That's what they're talking about in those papers. all of them.
So you understand my position too, is I'm not buying into any of the other stuff yet. That all takes being convinced like I was of the sphere. So everything else is on the table, but the sphere is not something at this point that I think can be changed. Nothing's going to come out that now the sphere doesn't work anymore. It's the Earth is mapped as a sphere. It operates as a sphere. Again, yeah, is it flat locally? Yes. So do we treat the Earth like it's flat? So it doesn't surprise me anymore that we have manuals saying treat the Earth as a flat, motionless plane, because that's what you do. If you did anything else, you would crash, because you don't need to do that. The Earth is so big, we just don't have any understanding of spheres that are large enough that are in the entire world. I want to show this real quick, just so I'll get your answer on this one, Austin. So this is you can see my screen now that I'm sharing these little things here.
Yeah, actually, I did find out that I can help you share your screen if you want.
Okay, well, I'm all right. I think as long as people can see it. So this was on Twitter.
Let me make you bigger then. It's like super small, right? So,
but it is kind of a serendipitous, or whatever you want to call it, that this is the 6 month to the day anniversary of this particular observation. So this is the 24-hour sun on December 14th in Union Glacier. So this is what Austin and I both saw. We both know that we were both there. We both know there was no trickery. There was no funny business. That's the freaking sun. And it does circle your head in Antarctica. So once we see that, something interesting is if we go now to, if we go now to the Google Earth here, you can see that, yeah. So I've got Google Earth pulled up, and you'll see up here that I've got the date as 6/14. You can't see that high? I was told about, so we can get this, you can see it. Shoot, hold on, I don't want you to see. Sorry, stop. Okay, let's go with this one instead. That's better. All right, now you can see it up there. All right, so you see at the top here, it says 6/16. I went back 2 days. But you'll notice that this is at the north, at 80 degrees north, so the complete opposite of where we were 6 months ago. And if we play the time lapse, you'll notice that the sun does the exact same thing that we saw it do, only the opposite. It's the opposite direction. And there'll never be a flat model ever in your life or your children's lives that will ever explain this. And it doesn't matter if you say it's personal incredulity, that I don't know how something works. No, because there's been flat earthers forever, and they've never, not one person, not one entity, not one Daniel Shenton, not one Lady Blount, not one St. Pierre, not one Allen, not one Witsit has ever been able to explain it. So if your level of acceptance of something is you're not allowed to say that it doesn't, just because I don't know how it works. Well, how many people need to say that something doesn't work until we know it doesn't work? Eventually, we have to get to the conclusion that something will never work, and we move on from there, and we just leave it. We don't stay on something and say, well, we still think the Earth's flat no matter what, even if it doesn't work. There is a model that very simply says, of course, you would see 80 degrees north, the opposite of what you would see 80 degrees south 6 months later, because that's how the globe works. It's what it predicts. It's what it calls for. So, and again, it's the exact same, meaning that if you were to measure the lowest, which looks about right there, the lowest spot in the sky, if you measured that, it'd be 15 degrees. If you notice, it's exactly north. Okay, what I figured out in the south, whoops, didn't mean to move up. What I figured out in the south was by watching the sun, I said, man, every time the sun gets to its lowest position, if I walk towards it, it will adjust up by 1 degree every 69 miles. And we were, remember, it was like 15 miles or 10 degrees low or 15 degrees, wherever it was in the south. And I realized, I bet you we're 790 miles from the pole, because you could just figure that out by how many times do I need to go towards the sun till it, it was at 15 degrees, but by going towards it, it's going to lift. And every time it lifts 69 miles, you would do it 10 times. It would lift 690 times, or 690 miles you'd travel. And that's where the South Pole is. Because what that would do is raise that sun to 25 degrees. And then what would that move the 35 degrees behind me to? 25 degrees. There's only one place on the Earth that would allow the sun to go around you and stay at the same height the whole time. That is the North and South Pole. And that is what we saw, 15 degrees and 35. But now I can infer from that there's a South Pole. We know the South Pole's there. Flat Earth wants to keep pretending that it might not be, which is them creating a paradoxical world where we have a North Pole, and underneath it, we have a North Celestial Pole. Underneath it, we have a North Pole. We have a South Celestial Pole, which is exactly 180 degrees from the North Celestial Pole. What's below it? Flat Earthers will never answer that, because it completely destroys the model. You can't say there's a South Pole, because on a flat map, everywhere is the South Pole. The South Pole is in all directions and everywhere. So my question to you, Austin, is with this, I get what you're saying, where you're saying, well, no, you're just claiming that we don't know how a flat model works. So at what point do we throw the flat model away if we've now falsified it, technically, in the way that at least the map that you don't ascribe to? But do you understand that there's no other map ever coming, that there's no other, the AE map is the continents laid out correctly, with the tropics laid out correctly, with the equator laid out correctly. Those are not movable because they're not man-made. They are features of the place that we live. The sun furthest south, tropic Capricorn, furthest north, Cancer, and the equator is where it's above on the equinox. So my question is, if there's never going to be another map, and the flat Earth map has been falsified, then what is your hope by staying a flat earther? Where do you think, what's going to happen? How could that ever be answered? It would have to be, number one, we create a new map, which is impossible because the continents are laid out correctly. That's the AE map. Or we figure out there's a magic formula of repeating suns and duplicating suns. So is that really what you're hoping for, is some sort of miracle? Or do you understand that you'll never explain it? Because it hasn't been explained in hundreds of years, if not thousands.
Okay. You said a lot, right? So
we can take it slow. I just want to know, what is your, do you acknowledge that in the north right now, today at 80 degrees north, they would be seeing the inverse and complete opposite of what we saw.
Yes, it certainly seems that way. Now, I mean, you know, we did one trip and we saw one location, but it was pretty close to matching. Like, I don't even think it actually matched perfectly some of the elevation angles, but you know, pretty close. Sure.
What the hell, Austin? He doesn't think it matched perfectly, but it was close. How do you know whether or not it matched, Austin? You didn't measure a damn thing the whole time you were there, you lazy piece of luggage. This is how ridiculous this pile of trash human is. He just literally said that he didn't think that the angles matched, but didn't do any measuring. How would he know? How would he possibly know whether or not it matched? He didn't have any way to measure anything. He was going to go to the Army surplus store and purchase himself a theodolite. Sorry, a sextant. A sextant. Because of course they're just going to have one for 10, 20 bucks. Maybe $100 he's going to splurge and get himself a sextant. No, they're not that cheap, Austin. Not that you would know how to use it just because you had one in your hands. In fact, here's what happened in Antarctica. Here's what happened in Antarctica. I had committed to myself and to Will and to everybody, I was going to be nice to Austin no matter what. I wasn't going to engage in anything there. It was for the benefit of the trip. It was so that there wasn't a bunch of bickering and fighting and things like that, right? And Austin was on his phone outside talking to somebody when we were back at camp. So that was before he, within the 18 hours where he didn't have the Wi-Fi password. Anyway, and he's looking at the sun. He's talking, and Dave McKeegan heard him say this. The sun is higher than 34 degrees. It's only supposed to be 34 degrees according to their paradigm. 30, I think it was 34 was the highest it was when we were there. And Dave and I were talking, and Dave tells me this. I'm like, what the hell? So I grabbed my phone, and you know what I have installed on my phone? I've got the Theodolite app on my phone. And so I go, oh, let me just measure it quick. 29 degrees. And he's at least 5 degrees off. And so I go over there, and I talk to him. I'm nice to him. I go, hey, here, and I show him on my phone, I measure the angle to the sun, 29 degrees. Right? And I didn't even come in and say, Dave said that you do blah, 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 right? I didn't do that, right? I was being reserved about that. And he's like, oh, cool. What's that app? I said, it's the Theodolite app. You can write it in. So he bought it. He bought it while we were there, and he installed it He installed an app on his phone using a satellite orbiting the globe while we were there. And I'm like, oh, there you go. You could measure the angle to the sun now. Now, I don't know if he did. I think he did not, because on mine, I have it configured. I don't know how to turn it off. I want it on, though. When you measure the angle, it puts a line on the screen where you're measuring. It also puts a line on the screen where eye level is. And so when you tip up, it changes its position on the screen. And it's nice to have. I don't know how I turned it on. It's in the settings. Don't care. Don't remember. I showed Austin. His doesn't have that. Mine did. I'm like, well, it's in the settings. I don't know where it is in the settings. You can look around and find it. Right? He comes to me like a day later, 2 days later. I don't know when. He's like, hey, did you find how to turn that on? Like, I didn't look. I didn't say anything, but I'm thinking, Austin, you could look. Go grab that instead of being on Discord all day, and you could have looked at the settings yourself, you lazy piece of trash, and then found out how to turn that on or off. But it doesn't matter. You don't need to turn it on or off to measure the angle to the sun. You just point the crosshairs at the sun and say, oh, look, it's not higher than 34 degrees. It's exactly the height that the globe predicts. So that's how I'm pretty sure that he didn't measure a damn thing the whole time he was there. So when he says this, he's lying.
inverse and complete opposite of what we saw.
Yes, it certainly seems that way. I mean, you know, we did one trip and we saw one location, but it was pretty close to matching. Like, I don't even think it actually matched perfectly some of the elevation angles, but, you know, pretty close. Sure. But here's the thing, right? For one, it's like, how are we even determining what is the opposite? Like, what are we talking about right now, right? We're talking about a model. And so you're bringing up the AE map. The AE map uses the same fictitious observer in the center that the globe does. You actually have to just...
The same fictitious observer in the middle that the globe has. There is no fictitious observer in the middle for the globe or the AE map. I don't know what he's talking about. Let's see if he expands on it.
Assume the center of a globe, use a fictitious observer, and then look at the sky, and you're actually going to map out this projection. If you're talking about the South Pole, if I were to take the center point and move it over 5 or 10 degrees, now everything changes drastically, right? We don't even have the same positioning to observe the sun at all as the AE map, because it's just a projection. They both have fictitious observers. And this isn't just some like way to get out of it. It's very important. It's very important to understand that these are just maps and projections and models that use fictitious observers and assumptions for convenience sake. We then did this over the...
So he's saying, oh, you used science. Yep, that's what we did. We used science. In science, you develop a model, and then you test that model through repeated falsification tests. And when the model passes these multiple falsification tests, hey, that model might be right.
Course of time, and now we have like generally what we observe matches our map or our model. And you
yes, and then you're like, hey, that model might be right.
Keep saying, like, you keep bringing up the AE map as if like I'm supposed to answer for that, and you say, well, were you expecting to have some other... For one, if you wanted to play the projection game, you can move stuff around and get a bipolar. If you take that away...
Oh, here he comes with the bipolar. As soon as you do that, though, Austin, now you've got magical teleportation problems. You got the water falling off the edge of the disc. You've got... How do you fly from east to west or west to east? How does it work? What happens if you go north? Do you teleport to the south? Don't know. None of that works. That's a worse model by far than the AE map that you're trying to pretend that you don't think the Earth is.
From the south and move it in, you get like a bipolar projection, and you would say, well, then how would this work on the bipolar? And you're going to try to critique it. Well, they're all just projections. I don't reify and treat any of those as if they're real. I know that they're not. They're just projections. And
so when he says reify means when you reify, you think you live on the model, right? So you take the model and you're like, this is reality, right? Instead of the other way around, where reality is modeled. And you look at the model and say, well, it represents reality, right? But it isn't reality. Flat earthers tend to do that, right? When they look at Isaiah 40:22, they're like, he sitteth above the circle of the earth. They're like, oh, well, the model is the earth, right? That's anyway. But reification is just something that Oakley says a lot. And being that Oakley is one of Witsit's Papa Flurfs, he says it a lot anytime you use a model. Oakley uses that, he claims reification every time he sees that the globe model works. It's not actually what's happening. So
they all have issues, and you make consistent refractive corrections. And this is very important because this kind of got lost with the first one. We're talking about the refractive conditions required for, let's say, celestial navigation for cell nav. You have to use planar corrections, actual empirical measurements to then correct to even try to get the refraction. And you don't just use like Snell's law. We use planar measurements to then correct, and we can't even
I don't know what he's talking about. You do use Snell's law.
Actually use this. So 1 degree per 69 miles, which is such a slam dunk for the globe. It's the complete opposite. That doesn't actually happen in reality. And then,
but it does. What the hell? Just denying reality doesn't make reality change.
Try to make the corrections for refraction. We don't use like typical refraction. We then actually have to account for planar geometry to even do it, right? So, and then that kind of spills right over to, well, then we definitely can't have a situation where when we look at the star and we see the position of it in relation to a mountaintop, we take a planar geometry measurement to that. As soon as the stars are occulted by the mountain, we're like, okay, because this is what it's all about. You're talking about this.
Because he's getting into celestial theodolite again, which doesn't match flat Earth, doesn't match globe, doesn't match concave. It matches all of them depending on how far you are from the mountain, because the geometry is flawed. It's a bad model.
Earth is a globe because the sun's right here, right? And it's based on the position on the globe. It's the same thing. Celestial observation. I see the star go behind the mountain. It gets occulted. I immediately take the time, right? And then if I go into Solarium, you brought that up. Well, that's just like a globe. Why are you using that? That's the whole point. We're using the globe to see what the actual prediction should be, right? To falsify it. And it uses the same fictitious central observer again. But like when we're on top of that mountaintop, we look at the time, it matches the perfect planar geometry measurement.
Oh my gosh. The perfect planar geometry measurement. Perfect. There you go. Look how perfect that is. There it is. The blue line is what he called perfect. Well, not really. Hold on. This is the better one. This is the column. Column FE diff. 13.3. Perfect. 12.9. Perfect. 13.0. Perfect. None of those are perfect. I mean, they're not horribly off. You couldn't tell with your eyeball. But the globe difference is even better. It's closer. The globe is closer. The observation of the globe is closer. And in the bottom here is 0.6 arc seconds off, where the flat Earth is 11.6 arc seconds off. Well, which one's better? Flat Earth is not perfect. Globe is not perfect. This is meat space. Nothing is perfect. But globe is closer. Right? That's for this measurement. For other measurements, for other distances from the mountain, it's a different amount off because the model is flawed. And how do you know the model is flawed? Because it varies. It gives you different angular elevations based on how far you are from the mountain. If the method was correct, you'd get the same amount, the same geometry prediction, no matter how far you are. They would track with observations, but they don't. All right, let's get this back up here.
Meaning if I'm on a flat Earth and I stand right here, I look at a mountain, the star gets occulted by the mountain, and I take an angle to the top of that mountain. If I go stay on top of that mountain and take another measurement to that star, it'll actually make a straight line all the way down from star to mountain to observer, right? It'll come down and basically complete part of a triangle. And there's a specific angle that the flat Earth would predict. The globe.
Well, this is a good one here. Awake Souls, it's funny when MCToon has to stop and explain basic principles to his channel audience. He treats everyone here like they're middle schoolers. I guess he knows his audience. I do teach to where people who don't have that background are, right? Somewhere between middle school and high school, right? People generally took Algebra 2 in high school. And I don't assume people in general took beyond Algebra 2. But in general, I figure that was the last math class that people took, right? Unless they're in the field, right? If they're in some sort of a STEM field where you use math, that's probably what most people took, and most recently. And the class that you most recently took, you don't have a deep grasp on. You went through it and you passed it. Now, in math, in science topics, when do you gain an understanding of the deeper? Like Algebra 2. When would you gain an understanding of Algebra 2? When you apply Algebra 2 in a subsequent class or subsequent exercises. That's when you're going to really get an understanding of it. And then, once again, what's even deeper? When you teach Algebra 2. So I found this is because I homeschool. There's plenty of math topics that I don't use regularly, right? When I write email filtering software, there's not a whole lot of trig in there, right? So my trig going into trig is pretty rusty. I have to brush up on it when I'm gonna teach it. And there's a teacher's guide for the homeschool book that we use. So I'll read it. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I got it. Sometimes I'll just look at the homework. It depends, especially Algebra 1. Algebra 1, I'll look at it and say, oh, I know what they're trying to do here. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll think, well, I would solve it this way, right? But when you look at how algebra is taught, you'll go through, well, here's a technique for doing something. Here's a different technique for doing something. Sometimes it's just, you're doing the same thing, but they're different techniques. And you'll wind up doing all these different techniques. Now, when I do things, in algebra, when I apply algebra, like there's certain techniques that I don't remember, I don't use because they're not fresh in my memory. So I'm not using them. So so I'm not really like, I'll look at it and say, oh, solve the problem. And I'll say, oh, well, I would solve the problem this way. But then it says, solve it this way. I'm like, oh, I have to go brush up on how to do it that way. So I'll grab the teacher's guide or whatever and then look at it. So the point is, Awake Souls, that is who I'm directing it to. I'm not directing it to people that understand this topic and work with trigonometry regularly. It's not the target market. But Awake Souls, let me explain this to you. You don't understand elementary school geometry. You don't understand that topic. So if I were to talk to you when I did before, and if it happens again, I will speak to you as if you are 5, because you have the understanding of geometry of a 5-year-old. That's about all the flat earthers have. So YD asked a question here. Do you think math is the proof of a globe Earth? No. As I mentioned earlier, you probably won't hear. Read this, chapters 3 and 4 particularly, but in science, there is no such thing as pure proof. You do falsification tests, and when a falsification test doesn't falsify a bunch of times, then you can have more and more confidence that your model, your hypothesis is correct. Math is one of the tools you typically use in that process, but math isn't proof of anything. Math is just one of the methods you use. For example, if I wanted to measure how long a board is, and it was longer than my tape measure, okay, and I hooked the tape measure on one side, and I went as far as it went, and I'm like, oh, I ran out of tape measure. Let me put a mark here, put a little mark on the board, okay, and bring the tape measure in. Ask someone to help hold that tape measure on that mark that I just made, and I'll go and measure that second distance there. All right, so if the first one is 10 units, the second one is 5 units, you know what I'm going to use? I'm going to use math to find out the length of that board is 15 units long. Right? Awesome. I just used math. Now, did I prove anything? No, I mean, that's not really what you talk about. But if you want to say, well, did I use math to definitely figure out that the board is 15 feet long, 15 whatever's long? Yeah. Do you want to, in your nomenclature, call that proof? Okay, but that's weird. So you have a full model of how the globe Earth works with the sun, moon, and the stars. Yes, we do. Very much. Thank you. We do. Yes. It is based on geometry, and it totally works. In fact, I can use that to determine what time the sun will set tonight or tomorrow. Apply the geometry of the globe, and I can figure it out. It's super cool. Very powerful. Flat earthers cannot use the geometry of flat Earth to determine what time the sun will set. Never. Now, some flat earthers have lied about it, like Shame Saint Plagiaire took a model that somebody else made that internally computes the position of the Earth, sun, moon in 3-dimensional space using an actual ephemeris of the solar system, right? And then warps everything to put it on a flat Earth, and shows the lines that the light would have to take in order to get there, right? Showing how it's not possible. The distance between the Earth and the sun is included in that computation. The radius of the Earth is included in that computation. And so did he have a model of flat Earth? He did not. He has a model of the globe that has been warped to make it look like it's on a flat. Right? Here's what it would have to do if the Earth were flat. And it's not actually a flat Earth model, because it doesn't explain how the light would bend. You're saying flat Earth is so ridiculous, the light would have to bend like this in order to see things. And you can look at that and say, wow, obviously that's not right. So, okay. I'm going to, all right, after the summit, I'm going to read this Poll. After the summit, will Witsit play the sad violin and ask for donations? 96% said yes out of 266 votes. Could well be. I don't know how well it did. I'm guessing it wasn't awesome. I'm guessing his sales weren't as good as he was hoping it was going to be. But I don't have empirical data on that. So West Side Girl Reacts has been a member for 7 months at Einstein. Says, I'm new here. Well, you're not that new. Bob for $5 says, big respect to Jeran, ate crow in front of the whole world, re-examined his beliefs and left a cult. Massive. Absolutely. And respect for that, right? Absolute respect for that. Good for him. And the people are people at the flat earthers attack him and stuff like that, but dude, he's moved on. He like these are the people that used to be his friends, and he's like, wow, they're not. They never were. Right? It sucks. It sucks. There are people in organizations where if you're not a current member of the organization, like for whatever reason, you're now out, like they hate you. Right? Scientology being one. That's kind of the poster child for that. So Angel Gamer says, starting now, I'm going to do a dab for each bro. Careful. If you haven't, it could cause you to break into a pretty massive sweat, and then you could have some dehydration issues. Slithery says, insert dad joke here. I don't have one handy. Maybe does somebody have one handy? I can spin up here. Logic says, I would like to know the percentage of flat Earth to Globers that actually laid for the pay-per-view, that paid for the pay-per-view. It's probably basically all flatties, but the thing is, I don't know. Let me walk that back a little. I looked at the people that were speaking, and they weren't flat earthers as their main presentation topic. They are generally flat earthers, or some of them are, like Amanda Vollmer. She is a flat earther, but she talks about woo medicine. So Austin was definitely trying to spin this as a way to get away from relying on flat earth. And I don't know if that pivot it worked for him, because his audience are flat earthers. And so this was a generally non-flat earth summit, or topics of the presentations, and even like weirder, like the one flat earth topic that was really powerful in there was the debate. And so I think he might have gotten some sales from flatties just for the debate, but I don't know how many. I don't know. I'd love to know the numbers. Jack Vetter says, I understand the definition of every word, but never in human history have these same words even been combined in the same sentence or order before. Yeah, it's a lot of word salad. Frigid point for 69 THBs. Don't know what that is. Thai bot. There it is. Frigid point for 69 Thai bots says, all Austin wants is a big bro hug from Oakley. Aw, they should hug it out for sure. Tim Davidson says, for the truthiness will set you freely. So, I guess so. Kango44 for 10 Kiwi bucks says, what evidence? Just answer the most simple question. Sunset. I would love to see a debate with Witsit with just that one question. Peter Markley has a great presentation on that. Yes. Austin loves to shift the burden. He likes to talk about shifting the burden of proof fallacy. But Austin claims the earth is flat. You have the burden if you make that claim. Right? Right, Austin?
You make a positive claim of specificity, you have the burden of proof of specificity.
That's right. And he claims the earth is flat, so he has the burden of proof. Knock It Offler says, I always see eye level to the cycloptoid horizon. There you go. And notice Knock It Offler has a new avatar. Lame Error for $5 says, Austin proving you can't tell the shape of the ground by looking at this guy. I see what you did there. There's that song, is it Aerosmith? Excuse me while I kiss this guy? Or kiss the sky. The sky. Jack Fetter for $5 says, whose idea was it to charge a fee to unemployed basement dwelling flirts? I question the veracity of that business model. That's it, yeah. But the thing is, their previous summits had done okay. And this is a tricky one. They had one time offered a lifetime summit membership. So you never again have to pay to attend a summit. And the next summit after that, they did not do financially well because their core audience are the ones that were going to pay. They're going to come back either way. They're going to pay either way. So like, hey, lifetime membership, I'm in. So the one where they sold the lifetime memberships did well. After that, not so well. Those people don't pay anymore. Well, Austin, I think to his credit, after probably about a year gap in doing these summits or more, I don't know, honored the lifetime membership people. Good for him, but not good for financial decisions because those people don't have to pay now. So the people that would, the core members, the one that would pay, don't need to. They're in for free. So I don't know. Here we go. Mike Dude says, I appreciate your explanations. I went to post-secondary, but not in the sciences. My top grade is 12 physics. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Mike Dude. And yeah, so a lot of people didn't even take physics in high school. I get that. Not a problem. Right? And if you didn't take physics, Austin, don't pretend like you know physics. But other people, hey, just know what you know and don't go outside of that. Seek to learn. Bob says, Flirt Logic, they see a black swan that confidently asserts all swans are black. And the white ones just look white because of how our eyes work. Absolutely. 78 Mitsu says, poke fallacy. Have to use them all. Oh, Pokemon, like Pokemon, poke fallacy. Have to use them all. Yeah, he did. He got a good list. Hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what? I can make that a numbered list. 18 fallacies he used. He claimed 18 fallacies. This is all just an attempt to not provide evidence. That's the whole point of it. Mr. E-Man says the count for evidence for flat earth and measurements provided by Witsit is the square root of -1. Imaginary. Lisa says, for an awesome t-shirt, checking out Gia Cat's channel to support her. Well, that's a good idea. Let's have a look here. Jeakat. Did I spell that wrong? Where is Geocat? Can you comment and then I can just click on your thing, your name. There it is. Geocat the cat. Go to channel. There it is. Here's the channel, everybody. And let's have a look-see here. Where's the PayPal Amazon? Wait a second. I don't see anything. Am I missing something? If there's a link, GCat, you can post it. There's a PayPal link and an Amazon link. A wish list on Amazon? I don't know. Okay. Well, I'm not seeing it. if somebody tells me, I'll put it up. But there are videos. So maybe in the description, let me see. Nope. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. There it is. Okay. All right, we got it. We got it now. All right, here we go. That's the wrong window. What's going on? Something went funny with the window. There it is. All right. Hey everyone, I designed a shirt. If you'd like one, I have a money pool going to help update equipment for the channel since I'm not monetized. If your donation is 32 or more, you'll get a shirt sent by me. There it is. So there's the link. There you go. And space exploration. There's the shirt. Look at that shirt. There it is. Go pop $32 over there to GCat, everybody. All right. I need to read some more super chats, but you know what I need to do? I need to recycle some little bit of beverage that I drank earlier. So you know what you get? You get a little bit of this song right here.
What is a full moon and what is a new moon on your model?
Probably like a magnetic cycle, and just like the center of a ferrocell cell image of a magnet.
I think it's probably like a magnetic cycle, just like the center of a ferrocell spiral. Image of a magnet, it's just black in the middle. It's actually pure inertia, not just a little. In the ferrocell image of a magnet, it actually goes into its inertial state, then charges back up. It becomes like etherically displaced. Yeah, you start to see it charge up once more, and it goes back like it did before. Once it becomes like etherically spaced, you see it charge up and take its place. Oh, shucks, ain't that so? That's how moon phases work, fam. Pass the dresser. In the magnet's heart, centrifugal divergence flies, centripetal convergence pulls. Defying all science, etheric whispers sing, light and shadow blend, magnetic cycles spin, where physics seems to end. In the ferrocell image of a magnet, it actually goes into its inertial state, then charges back up. It becomes like etherically displaced. Yeehaw! Grab your partner, swing 'em round, magnetic cycles up and down. Either song in the air, hillbilly science everywhere, 'cause it's like etherically displaced. Yeehaw! Yo, belly on up to the Witsit word salad buffet. Who has light vinaigrettes? The Jugger Ranch.
Then charges back up, and once it becomes like etherically displaced again, you start to see it charge up throughout a cycle, and then it goes back.
Who's the spirit animal? Is that raccoon? I love that raccoon. I love that raccoon. It's so funny. All right, did everybody go kick $32 over to GCat? All right. Rossi says, where does the expert Mark 1 eyeball come from? EXP. I don't know. That I first heard it that I can recall was Dave McKeegan saying it in Antarctica. But maybe I don't know. Anybody else know? Rossi. Oh, that was Rossi. Justin Messenger says, Toon, get Oakley to help you convert kilometers to miles. He can't convert kilometers to meters. Lisa. What? Icy Spin says, Awake Souls explain the flight path issues yet? That's a great question. How do flights work on your goofy wavy equator map? It's so silly. The wavy equator map is so goofy. I have to show you. If you haven't seen it, it's insanity. How do you take yourself seriously? When you have that map, you're like, this is what Earth looked like. It's so ridiculous. Let's see. It's not. What do I go? Hold on. It's not Awake Soul. So I have a, there it is. It's, for some reason I have it under Limitless and Awake Souls. So there it is. Okay. Here's their map. Are you ready for this? You're going to love it, people. This is their map. They think the Earth looks like that. How dumb they are. I mean, imagine being so dumb. You're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Look at it. Look at Alaska. Look how big Alaska is. Look at that. And now here's what's crazy. On the day, this is so funny. On the day of the equinox, twice a year, right? When you're in Quito, Ecuador, which is over here, right? Quito, Ecuador. The sun rises due east. Okay, so now, but where's the sun at that moment in time? Well, there's these lines here, right? So we can look at these lines here. Actually, it's easier if we go up across here and then we just go straight across. So the sun is somewhere up here, right? The sun is over here, over Indonesia area, right? That at sunrise time, when the sun is rising from Quito, Ecuador, it's somewhere over here, somewhere in this vicinity. Is it? It 6 hours. So maybe that's not right. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. Is that okay? So I have to do this one. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here it is. It's over Africa at the time. Okay. Now this one is a little. It's a little bit. Yeah, you don't really see that much. So it's easier if we do this one here. So when you're over, so this spot here on Africa. So it depends where the curve is happening because the curve reverses itself. So right here, due east is off this direction right here, right? So the sun has to be over here around the southwestern part of Australia at sunrise for that part there in Western Africa. But according to this map, it's up here over Indonesia. So it's off. The angle of the sun is off according to the goofy map here. Imagine that. Imagine how dumb that is to actually think that that's the case. How stupid that is. Now what, it gets even dumber because here we have, what if you go up here? What if you go off the top? What happens? Do you teleport magically to the bottom? Is that what happens? Well, let's have a look here. So I looked at it. I said, well, let's see. If you're in Anchorage, how far is it to Antarctica? Well, so I took the bottom of the map and I blopped it up at the top here because it's just a big old teleporter, right? You just have a magic Pac-Man portal that goes off the top. And look at that. So if you're in Anchorage, according to Awake Souls map, and you want to go to the shortest route to Antarctica, well, you just go northwest. Do-do-do, do-do-do, do-do-do. There we are. How short was that? That was super quick. So I should have taken that route from Minnesota, right? I bet. How come we didn't? I don't know. Who knows? Nobody will ever know. And so what I did is to figure this distance here, I took from Anchorage to this island here, Nikolski, which is 914 miles, right? That's this black bar here. And then I just kept that line going, and it's just triple that distance. So Anchorage to Union Glacier is just over 3 times as far, about 3,000 miles. That's it. Super close. Easy to get to Union Glacier from Anchorage. So there you go. But anyway, their imaginary derpy map obviously is wrong. They can't handle basic geometry. So, okay. Rossi said, wouldn't an anglometer measure English people? It would. An anglometer would be the right word, not angleometer. Anglometer. Hard. It's a little different to pronounce. It's stuck in the back of my throat when I say anglometer. Then Rossi again says, and if the anglometer says they're too tall, the Anglophile makes them shorter. Oh my gosh. Yes, you file them down with the Anglophile. Mr. E-Man says, remind me, how many observations matched Flat Earth? None. MCToon, how many matched the globe? All of them. Like, it's affirming the consequent. Appeal to incredulity, appeal to ignorance, appeal to pity, reification, shifting the burden, begging the question fallacy, it presupposes the straw man hasty generalization stereotype fallacy, and then a genetic fallacy, and you were poisoning the well and ad homing me the whole time. It was so mean. And then it was an appeal to motion, a false dilemma, false dichotomy, and special pleading. All 18 of them. And that's why Austin doesn't have any evidence for Flat Earth. Daryl M says it will take more than sunspots for Dipsit to change his spots. Well, yes. Yes. He doesn't. Yep. He's a piece of trash. Logic says Austin debates the debate structure and never the debate topic. Of course. He can't. He can't. But he does say, he does want people to think that there is a default shape of Earth. And that his is the default. Why? Because he said it. Galaxy Soup for $10 says, intuitively, we would expect to see a local sun change size as it recedes or approaches from our position. A child could. A child could even understand this, but we don't see that. Yes. And that is perspective. When things are farther away, they appear smaller. They subtend a smaller angle in our visual space. But in reality, the sun is the same size, and that was another one of the things that we recorded while we were there. The angular size of the sun the entire time we were in Antarctica was the same size. To the pixel. Amazing. How is that the case? Because that would be the most dramatic distance change on the dirt pizza. Right? The map that Austin talks about, this one here, the only one that Austin talks about, angles to Polaris, he said it in this debate, that's this map, no other map. But yep, it didn't change angular size. So the distance between us and the sun varied by an extremely small percentage or none at all. That's what you must conclude. So either it was we were the center of that circle, or it was really far away from us and the amount of distance that it changed was negligible. So the angular size change was negligible. So there you go. DP Debunks says physics. Oh, Witsit thought it was phys ed. Phi ed. We would say phi ed, but phys ed. Yep. No. Icy Spin says, sent you a fun screenshot in DM full of wisdom. Yes. Wisdom. I present. Oh my goodness. Did you? There's the Dimmock wisdom from the screen. There it is. Why would a 3D ball lie to you, MCToon? I don't know. Lol horizontal blocks that touch on water prove facat earth. No globe stairway water, lol 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 lol, WTF. Holy cow. Go put some rectangles on the lake, get a side view to match a stairway globe stepping water drop live. I'm betting Globers can't. Yeah, whatever that is that you said, nobody can do. Because it's you didn't English well. Flat Earth has parallel verticals everywhere and cubes all line up. They don't diverge like Legos on a real ball. Jeez, this guy he's off his rocker, but funny. It's funny. Tim Davis says, loving an elevator, born in East LA, secret Asian man, love all those songs. Would this be Aerosmith songs? Algorithm says hyperbolic geometry of vision means that if it looks flat, then it can't possibly be flat, thus contradicting Austin's default position. First law of Flurf confirmed. Hey, that's a great point. I didn't think of that. If he's going to talk about hyperbolic vision, flat ain't flat. Midnight Smoke is suing for brain damage. Tim Davis's dark circles around eyes, eats trash, obsessively washes, mostly nocturnal. Am I a raccoon? Yes, you are. Rossi says if the contest with Dimmock is making him admit, he automatically wins by pulling you, chatters, into unwinnable contest, like in war games. The only way to win is not to engage. But no, I disagree. I think we are winning when Dimmock says silly things and we enjoy a chuckle. So I'll get my flat non-spinning surface versus a ball spinning. Live, let's bet 1,000 to 1 my favor, which matches reality all local levels auto, adding up to all levels. You see, what does that mean? Nobody knows. You can, that's not encrypted. That's just random. But you could take these words, and this is a true random number generator. We got Glober science not proving stuff makes it real. Low. So ifs are real, but a ball breaks all globe claims. You see, how high do you go for sun to stop moving? While Glober's live video, the sun didn't stop moving. You see, it's goofy. That's we all win. Thank you, Dimmock. Lord Illuminous Poo says, give up society, become Trash Panda. iSolder74 says, I've seen similar maps in JRPGs. Yes. That's not my favorite map, but it's pretty close. Pretty close to my favorite. My favorite, you want to see my favorite? Is, there it is. This is my favorite map. Look how funny that is. This is from Daznez. Again, you can teleport. Now this one, I think in this one, the teleportation problems from Awake Souls is fixed. So if you teleport off of the side here, right? You wind up over here, right? That actually matches. So if you're on the Aleutian Islands, sticking out here, going off here, off of Alaska, you wind up over here. Nailed it, right? Good job. And if you're here in Antarctica and you go like where we were, 80 south, I don't know where 80 south is on this. The scale on this is all wacky. But you go here and you wind up over there. See, Awake Souls, this is better. You need to switch to this one. The Pac-Manning works. Right? The distances are all screwy, but the Pac-Manning works. Plus, the sun direction works on the equinox. Look at that. The equator is straight. You see how amazing that is, Awake Souls? You should totally move up to that. But look at the distances up here north. That's way off. From the north end of Greenland all the way up to the North Pole is like the same distance as from the equator to the top of Greenland. All wrong. Flatties, you guys, you're so funny. Rossi says, I see, I stand corrected. Yeah. All right. YD says, I was a flat earther before there was YouTube. I appeal to no one. Oh, precious YD. But do you have any evidence? Of course you don't. Of course you don't. And that's the other thing. You see this with flatties. They all want to be the OG, not all of them, but so many of them want to be the OG flirt. They're like, oh, I was around before this guy. So I had a guy, I debated him twice. He's like, I've been a flat earther for 14 years. I'm like, oh, really? Well, what was it that got you into flat earth? Eric Dubay, like at the time, it was like 8 years that Eric Dubay had been doing videos. I'm like, but Eric Dubay is only 8 years ago. You can't be 14 years. Oh, well, he didn't know what to say. So now what? He wanted to be the OG flurf. So YD wants to be the OG flurf. So, but I gotta say, YG, it's not actually bragging, right? This isn't bragging. This is you saying that you were dumb before you had a bit of an excuse that YouTube videos tricked you, right? So that's a problem. You were dumb for a longer time. I don't know. That's not a flex. It's not a flex. Let's see. Awake Souls. Here it says, everything works on the model we have been sharing for the last 7 years to 1/100th of a degree per second, but it doesn't. It doesn't. Let's look. It doesn't. Right here. You see? There's your map. If you go northwest from Anchorage, you don't wind up in Antarctica. That doesn't happen. That's not how we went. That's not how it went. Okay, Max says check DM Discord. All right, checking Discord DM from Max. There you go. Oh my gosh. So perfect. Oh my gosh. Oh, YD says, I was smart enough growing up on the lake watching the sunset and sunrise. It was simple, but sunrises and sunsets falsify flat earth, you dummy. That's how dumb you are. Sunsets and sunrises are impossible on flat earth. Oh my gosh. Oh, you are straw manning. That's a static picture centered to France. The stereographic projection must be centered to each observer. But no, that's not how maps work in reality. That's not how it works. You're just making up crap because your map is stupid and you're dumb. Jason and YD, you're dumb. Face it, you're just idiots. That's that. Like, we've diagnosed the problem, right? Like just admit you're dumb. It's okay. So like maybe you're smart in something else. It's not smart in figuring out Earth shape. You're dumb in figuring out Earth shape, but that's okay. Just give that up. Let other people worry about that one. I'm not triggered by your truth, Whitey. I'm laughing at you. Understand the difference between triggered and mocking. Whitey, you can't answer any question. Give me the geometry for what time the sun will set using flat Earth. You can't do it. I know you can't do it. Because there's no way that the sun could ever set. Give me the geometry for how the sun appears to be the same angular size while we're in Antarctica. While anywhere, any day, anywhere on Earth, it's the same angular size. Why? Where is the geometry for that? Right? Now, you know what flatties do? Because they hate truth. They embrace lies. And they'll have a camera that doesn't have a solar filter on it. And how do you know when you have properly exposed the sun? In your photograph, you can see the sunspots. There's always sunspots. And so if you can see the sunspots on the sun, then you know that you have exposed the sun properly, so now you can measure the angular width. If you haven't done that, then you can't measure the angular width. You're looking at glare. There it is. So, Whitey, you good. I'm glad you know that I'm mocking you. And it doesn't affect what you know to be true. But you're still wrong. You're still embracing a lie. You can think it's true, but you can't you can't explain a sunset on flat Earth. You can't. You just have word salad. But here's what I can do. I can provide the geometry for when the sun will set using the globe. You can't. You can't. So there it is. We've been showing you for 7 years. You haven't. You haven't. You've been dumb for 7 years. Okay. So I've gone through half of the debate, and I'm going to do the other half tomorrow night at 9 o'clock p.m. So starting a little later than tonight, because tomorrow is Ultimate Frisbee coaching. I'm coaching the summer program that we do. So DM if you want, says Monkey Cat Pat Pat. What did you? All right, we'll get him. We'll get him. Here we go. This is a pretty good one. I like that. Oakley, that's a good Witsit, but that Oakley isn't quite there. And then this was great when Witsit was debating Daryl, and Daryl was doing math, and Austin's like, oh, moderator, he's doing math. Ow. Thank you for that. I like the AI generated math in the background. Like it looks good, but when you start examining it, like, wait a second, what is this? What is this? You've got is this a sigma? No, it's not. It's not well drawn, right? And what's above the A here? Is this a R that's leaning? Right? Like, this is cool. It looks nice, but until you start analyzing it, then you're like, oh, yeah, this was. That's so good. Whitey says, why would I spend clicks trying to explain to you and the glyphs how the sunset and sunrises work? You really don't care. No, and so this is you admitting that you can't. Because if you could, you would. Right? You'd say, oh, here's the geometry for how the sun sets. Right? But there is no geometry. The fact that you're refusing to do it, right? You know you can't. Right? What is... Right? Here we go. Here it is. You've got the flat, right? You've got the sun here above the flat, and it moves away, right? I'm going to do it here, right? It moves away, and it gets closer. It appears closer, right? But it doesn't cross. No matter how far you get, it never crosses. The geometry of it demands that it never crosses. And so you're like, why would I explain it? Why would I waste my time explaining it to you? Because you can't. Why you don't, right? We know you can't, and that's why we can freely mock you, because even though you know full well you can't explain it, you have this vague idea in your head of this word salad that you'd like to say to explain it, but it doesn't explain it. It's just word salad. If you were explaining it, you would say, oh, well, you apply the geometry this way, and here's the optics that's involved, and here's the physics that's happening, and there it is, and you'd apply it, but you can't. So, oh my goodness, people are sending me, we got Zoomy has sent me something. Gross. But Oakley's got hair. Well, he can't have hair. You see, Oakley can't have hair. That's not right. He's Uncle Fester now. Everybody's just sending me stuff. I love it. We've got, that was from Icy Spin. I just got a spam on Discord. Do you have a way to shut down a Litecoin wallet? Oh, well, yes, I do. Awake Soul, this is great. What part of 1,000th of a degree per second do you not understand? We can explain it to 1/100th of a degree per second anywhere on Earth, any day of the year. No, you can't. You're not fooling me. You can't do that. You don't have flat Earth-based geometry to do that. Right? Now, let me remind everybody. Awake Souls, just like Shame Saint Plagiaire, has plagiarized somebody else's globe model, where internally it's using a heliocentric solar system ephemeris to determine the positions of the sun, moon, and Earth in three-dimensional space, including the radius of the globe, the distance between the Earth and the moon, hundreds of thousands of miles, and the distance between the Earth and the sun, 150 million kilometers. And I believe he actually has the ellipticity of the orbit in there. So based on the time of year, it's modifying that. You're admitting the Earth is a globe when you use a globe model to compute the position of the sun. Just saying, oh, but it's flat, doesn't make it flat. You're using globe geometry. This is what's so absolutely juicy when Awake Souls is like, we can do it. No, you can't. You use the globe, and then you just pretend like you didn't. I love it. Yes, it's modeled, so you just can't accept it, so you default strawman tactics. You didn't model it. You didn't model it. Whitey, send me an email with the model. And if it's got the globe in it, you admit the Earth is a globe. MCToon at mctoon.net is my email address. And I'll put it up on screen and we'll laugh at it when we find the globe in your model. Come on. I don't see it. Get that email going where you use the globe to determine the flat Earth. You're so dumb. This was so great. This is what's so absolutely fantastically great. Every single flat earther who tries to explain flat Earth uses the globe. You get in your car and you drive around, you use the globe when you run your GPS. When you get the position, it's using the three-dimensional position of that satellite in space, of 4 or 5 satellites, three-dimensional around the globe, and it gives you the dimensions in a three-dimensional Cartesian coordinate system of the globe. That's what it does. And you're like, it's all flat. No, it's not. Oh, you guys are so pathetic. Like, what a sad existence to think that you have something when you don't. It's this weird delusional system that you live in. I don't get it. I don't know. It's so funny. Insider74 says most JRPG maps do the Pac-Man teleport thing. Well, there you go. And you get to do that when it's fantasy. Just like Awake Souls' Earth is fantasy. Tim Davis says, I'm guilty of using Dimmock's debates with Tune to Sleep. His dumb is better than white noise, flat bucket hole, rocket mud. That's great. Thor says Oakley et al. Have confused Flurfs into believing that the fact that the celestial sphere is divided by a plane of observation, it means it's flat math, as if we're standing on our eyeballs. Yes. Oh, I got another Discord idea. People are going nuts. We have AI going all over the place making stuff. Oh, is this a video now? Is there audio to it? Okay, that's pretty good, DP. All right, I gotta get it. I'm waiting for Awake Souls. I really hope Awake Souls is gonna send, or YD is gonna send a map or their model thing. Okay, here we go. You ready? Are you ready, everybody? Oh my gosh. Oh my god. That's great. That's great. All right. I have some others. Let's see. That was DPD bunks. We got, oh my gosh. There's no end. This is all night long. This we got Mikey. We got Oakley. And we got, is this Shame? All right. Charlie Welch sends this. We got, this is Arwen. Oh my gosh. This is so, it's too good. It's just too realistic. Like, Lord of the Flies. Electronic talking Arwen with interchangeable Gollum Smeagol heads. Oh my gosh. Filthy little globe tards. They stole it from my precious. Warning choking hazard. Oh my gosh. We got interviewer. Okay, so let's take a look at your online presence, Arwen. Oh, poor Arwen. Oh, it's Gakushi, not Shame. Okay. That's better, Oakley. Uncle Fester Oakley. I don't know what this has to do with anything, but okay, Duck Norris is here. Thank you for that. And okay. Duck Norris. Sweet. Isider74 says that picture, burn it. Lord Illuminous Pooh says someone said they wanted a dad joke. I have a 25-year-old son. That's it. I'm the dad and the joke. There you go. Lord Illuminous Pooh again says, yes, I've procreated. You're all doomed. Doomed. And Rossi says AE map needs Pac-Man teleport all the way around. Yeah. All right. Let me check to see if Awake Souls sent the model, because I know no model. Whitey tried to drop the link to the model, but you asked for it, yet blocked me from posting it here. That's right. You need to be a moderator to post it here. That's why I said email it to me. MCToon@mctoon.net. Oh my gosh. I'm not giving you mod. Tell you what, you know what, Whitey? I'll give it to you because I want to laugh, because I know that you've got the globe in it. I will temporarily add you as a mod so you can post. There you go. Post your link. Post your link. And then we can enjoy the laugh, because I know what it is. I know what you're going to post, I think. Let's go. Let's go. There it is. Oh, that's a YouTube video. There's no, where's the geometry in the, oh my gosh, it is. It is. All right. It is what I said it was going to be. You guys are seriously mentally ill. So this is all this is all you need to see. All right, what is that? See that over there on the right? What is that over there on the right? What is that? I know what that is. That's right here. Here's the source for it. Oh, you know what? I didn't show it. Okay, here you go. Here's their model. Look at that. That's their model over there on the right. You see that? They're like, it's a flat plane and it goes into the flat plane. But the geometry here, well, I'm asking for the geometry. Is this geometry the right thing? Is it? And what did I say? I said your model that they're going to use, if it uses the globe, if it uses the ephemeris of the solar system, if it uses 150 million kilometer away sun, you are admitting the Earth is a globe. Well, here it is. Here is your model. This is your model right here. I've looked at the source code to this. It has the radius of the globe in it. You're dumb. You're admitting the Earth is a globe by doing this. You're admitting, seriously, you are 100% admitting the Earth is a globe. But you know what? I can do better than that. So, seriously. Oh yeah, I need to remove the wrench. Thank you. Well, there we go. Remove as moderator. Okay. So let's see. What was your cope here? Go ahead and cherry pick pieces of the model. How about you review the entire video, then speak to it versus cherry picking? No. It's not cherry picking. The entire model relies on the Earth being a globe. All of the computations rely on the Earth being a globe. And let's see, MA. I want to make sure I get the RSH. That's not it. No. Okay, that wasn't. All right, where did I put that? Is it on Sunset? So I've read through on his website. He talks about how he computes all of the stuff, and he is extremely verbose, or very precise in how he does it. So he actually goes through how he does that and has links to how he's doing the computation internally. So, I don't need to debunk the model. I'm embracing this model. This is the globe. There's no debunk necessary. 100% this is the globe. This is how stupid you are. You're so dumb that you don't understand it. This is, I mean... okay, is this it? That's not it. So I'm searching the website because he has some really nice well, here's a good one. So I'm not going to go into the source code right now because I don't remember exactly where it was. He's got some pretty good sized source code. But here is a little this doesn't help you guys. Right? So they're like, well, it goes into the flat plane. No, it doesn't. It goes below it. This is where the sun actually is off this direction. It's physically off this direction. That's what it's doing. It's computing its right? Its position. It doesn't help you. There you go. Oh, look at that. It's a globe. So, civil twilight occurs when the zenith angle of the center of the sun is less than 96 degrees, 6 degrees below the horizon, and the available skylight is still typically sufficient for most civilian outdoor activities. The apparent horizon is still clearly visible against the glowing sky, and only the brightest of stars are beginning to show. Nautical twilight occurs when the zenith angle of the center of the sun is less than 102, or it's 12 degrees below the horizon, and the available skylight is no longer sufficient for detailed outdoor activities. However, the outline of the apparent horizon, as well as most large topographical features, are still distinguishable. So, that model is accurate to 1/100th of a degree per second, and that's great. It's the globe, you complete idiot. Your model is the globe. I can't believe that you guys are actually that dumb. I mean, I know the source code. I've looked at the source code. I know what he's doing. He's using the globe. I'm trying to, I don't remember exactly, because he has a pretty detailed page with lots of citations on how to determine the angle to the sun in three-dimensional space, you know, the solar system. And this isn't it, but yeah, it uses globe math. That's the thing. You guys are. It's like you think you're winning. You're not. You're not. You're just. All right, hold on. Because here's the cool thing. There it is. So this thing that you're showing here, right here, right? This is a zoomed in version of this one here. Oh dear, look at that, right? See that? You got the same sun, the same all that angle stuff here. Right there. See that? It's the same. It's the same. This is the same computations, just done, you know, and displayed in 3 dimensions like that with the sun far away. You're admitting the Earth is a globe. It is a competition. This is a competition between people that are complete idiots and trying to dumb down other people, and people that are not idiots and people that are trying to stop misinformation, like you idiots are trying to misinform people. So it is a competition. You are trying to deceive people, and I'm trying to not let them get deceived. So there you go. It's not the same. It is the same. This is the same computations internally. That's what's happening here. It's the same computations internally. You're using the distance between the Earth and the sun of 150 million kilometers. You're using everything the same. You use the radius of the globe. This uses the radius of the globe. You're admitting the Earth is a globe when you do this. It baffles the mind that you can actually use a globe model and then just shield your eye, somehow like go through this weird mental gymnastics to somehow wipe away in your mind that, I mean, you know the globe is in there. You know it's using the radius of the Earth to compute all those angles. It's not using flat Earth geometry. And you're like, oh, this flat Earth. Remember, I started this with, show me the flat Earth geometry, and you sent me globe geometry. You are, like I said, mentally ill is really what it is. Rossi said Pac-Man, AE Mapney's Pac-Man around, all the way around. And iSider74 says, but it measures flat. Wah. No, it doesn't measure flat. Okay. Anyway, Wake Souls, you're funny, but I'm going to wrap it up. And I think, you know how long it was that Witsit didn't have it? It was 18 hours. But let me tell you, I will be speaking on Friday in St. Paul about Dearth's leaky app. If anybody wants to come, it's Secret Con. You can find it online. Just Google Secret Con. Tickets are like $200 and something if you really want to see me talk. It's not worth it. Not worth it to see that. But Caitlin's going to be there. Dedication, people. Be as dedicated. Anyway, let's get some 18 hours here. It's been great. It's been fun. And we'll be back tomorrow, 9 p.m. Central Time, to finish watching the debate where Jeran demolishes Witsit. Well, Earthly Skeptic, before I finish up, $5 says, did you hear that clip of Shame where he said that while copying Bislin's model, he removed superfluous comments such as copyright notices? I have heard that. I have. Such a fine, upstanding plagiarist he is. Yeah, what a guy. Anyway, we'll see you later. Bye.
He's going to do a stream at 12. He's going to do a stream at 2 a.m. And it's like Critical Thinks over there on his computer. McKeegan's on his computer. Everyone's got the Wi-Fi password, but they like refuse to give the flat earthers the Wi-Fi password. And that was the case for like 18 hours. Like
they set up that Starlink. The Globers had a plan, whispering secrets about Wi-Fi all across the land. Mark had the password, Duffy had it too. They told me wait a while, but man, that ain't true. Oh, I cried
18 hours.
18 hours.
How did you survive?
Left me out in the cold. But I had that Wi-Fi quicker than I told. Trying to get your pity, spinning tails in my blues. But deep down you all know I'm stretching the truth. MCToon streamed at 2. Critical Think on his screen. McKeegan's on the Wi-Fi, living the bandwidth dream. They said they'd limit it to keep their streams alive. But 1.5 hours in, I was online and thriving. Oh, I cried 18 hours, left me out in the cold. But I had that Wi-Fi quicker than I told. Trying to get your pity, spinning tails in my blues. But deep down you all know I'm stretching the truth. They set me up in another camp. I tried to sell my plight. 7, maybe 8 hours, yeah, I twisted it alright. But Mark was cool, he slipped me the code so fast. Now I'm here singing lies, hoping your pity will last.
Here it comes, people.
I cried 18 hours, left me out in the cold.
Fire up your lighters.
I had that Wi-Fi quicker than I told. Trying to get your pity, spinning tails in my blues. But deep down you all know I'm stretching the truth. So if you hear my story, take it with a grain of salt. I wasn't left out in the cold, it's all my own fault. The blues ain't always honest, but man, they sure sound fine. Even if my Wi-Fi blues are just a pack of lies.
Thank you, everybody.
And that was the case for like 18 hours. Like